Ohio, representing Team Popping the Boys, the headline god, Jeremy Lambert, and his co-host, speaking out of Atlanta, Georgia, representing more than one royal family, the king of indie viewing, Stephen Jensen. And this is the Spotlight on Fightful.
Welcome everyone to the Spotlight. Shout out to Big Dick MLJ for the intro as always, and shout out to Gisberto for the thumbnail. I thought this one would pop you this week. Stephen Jensen with your best friend Cody Rhodes and your sworn enemy CM Punk, both being labeled as saviors right there. I thought that was a good one.
Yeah, great thumbnail, Gisberto as always. And as always, yes, thank you to Big Dick MLJ for the intro. Very much appreciate that. And welcome everyone to the show this week. Coming off the heels of probably our most successful show ever. I think that's it's only the second time we've had 10,000 views on an episode, I think.
I get caught up in numbers here, Jensen.
Well, I keep up when it's Cody Rhodes related like that. I knew last week was going to be a good episode. But yeah, thank you everyone who watched last week. Last time I checked, we were at like 10.2 or 10.3 K people watched it. So we really appreciate that. And we'll probably have more stuff to rant about today. I know that there's plenty of wrestling news, and I know there's going to be plenty of thoughts on Cody's current spot on the show, CM Punk, and all that stuff that we're going to talk about, and a lot of other great stuff. So anyway, thanks for joining us, y'all. And how you doing, Jeremy?
Doing well. Thank you everyone for joining us in the chat, for watching the live stream, for watching the replay. Later on at about 11 a.m. Eastern, we got our interview with Tom Talks Rubbish. Tom is a great man who does a lot of interviews. There's a lot of interviews with wrestling media personalities. Talks about that. Talks about how he got started with that during the pandemic and everything. Talks about finding love of boxing, just his love of wrestling overall. So really good interview with Tom Talks Rubbish that we're going to air a little bit later on. Jensen, let's waste no time. Let's get to your favorite topic, and it's actually your favorite topic. I'm not gonna swerve you and talk about CM Punk. We're gonna get to your favorite topic.
I need to finish the story. In the WWE, the story never finishes.
We got a new bumper. New bumper.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. Very topical.
I put that together this morning. I thought, you know what, that Vince bumper, it's a little outdated. We've used that for about a year now. Vince is he is what he is. So we need a new bumper. So I thought that was good.
Yeah, no, it's great. That's great. I like that. We'll use that one going forward. For at least, I mean, especially when it's Cody Rhodes related. You might even need a Cody Rhodes bumper, like a WWE one with Vince, and then one when we talk about Cody, that's that about how the story never finishes. Cody Rhodes alert, the story never finishes. But yeah, I got a lot of support over the week, by the way. There was like a lot of people that reached out. I know I told you privately about some of them, but there was like a lot of people and some people you'd be really surprised about that actually reached out over the last week to like thank me for like this stuff we were saying on the show. It sounds like a lot of people agreed with, the situation Cody's in right now is not ideal. We're going to discuss this, but anyway, Jeremy, if you want to like kind of, what are your thoughts and how do you want to like lead into this or talk about, because the topic is essentially Cody's promo on Monday, which I thought was really good.
Yes. Well, first we got a super chat from Aranode, Anarud. Sorry, Anarud. Apologies if I screwed that up. Going to need an extended break from wrestling after Cody does the job for Lesnar, killing his status as a main eventer. I don't think Cody is going to do the job for Lesnar. I'd be a little surprised, but maybe I'm wrong. But Cody comes out on Monday and he basically says, I'm a giant loser. Brock got the better of me. And that was it. That was what I took away from the promo. Jensen, Cody's a big old dork. What did you think of this promo, Jensen?
Well, I thought the actual promo was really good, by the end of it. But there are parts of it that do bother me, like what you just said. So it's strange to me that Cody is talking so much about just Roman being the better man, because that wasn't the case. And they even said that. Sorry, I just gotta clear my throat real quick here.
Well, Cody,
There we go.
the other part, not only of, I'm a giant dork and Brock Lesnar beat me up, when he was like, I wasn't prepared for the lengths that Roman would go to. This man preaches, do the work, and then he couldn't watch the Spark Notes of the 3-hour Bloodline compilation of how Roman has gone to these lengths to keep the title. I mean, okay, fine. You don't want to watch the product every week. One, don't preach, do the work if you're not going to put it in the tape study. But they put out there the 3-hour video of what you need right there. I feel like Cody Rhodes has been lying to us, and he's hoodwinked us here.
Well, when it's also just confusing because he's obviously very aware of the whole Bloodline story because he's helped Sammy and KO, solve friendship and then get their titles and have their moment. They finished their part of the story at WrestleMania. So it's weird because the first promo after the Raw after WrestleMania, Cody came out and he basically said, I had you. The difference between me and you is I had you dead to rights and I want a rematch. And it was very clear. But now because Brock's attacked him and that's where they're headed. And because I guess Roman's not going to be at Backlash and it's going to be Cody and Brock will be the main event. So because of these scenarios, which once again was all the more reason to put the title on Cody. This should have just been for the title, Brock versus Cody. But it's one of those things now where they, they can't they're got Cody in this no man's land now, kind of, because he has to focus on Brock, and that's the feud, and it's very important that he wins that feud, but it's not a guarantee. I thought WrestleMania was a guarantee. Now I'm not discounting any scenario now. For all I know, Brock comes out there and he does a John Cena SummerSlam style match and just throws him 16 suplexes or whatever and pins him after an F5. But that's what that's kind of what the fear is, because that's the thing is, to kind of bring this all around, that first the promo from the Raw from WrestleMania was very heavy on I was the better guy, I had you, and I want a rematch. And now it's you were the better man, I wasn't prepared enough, it's on me. Now, there's something admirable to about that mindset, and I understand. There's a lot of people out there, and I think Cody's this kind of person too, that in his real life, I don't think he makes a lot of excuses for stuff. So it's just one of those things where anything bad happens, it's probably just that's on me. I can be better. I can prevent that from happening again. But in this story, it's just kind of strange because he was the better man. And everyone knows he was the better man. And even he knew he was the better man, the Raw after Mania. And now he just has to be sidetracked. It's kind of they just need a reason to kind of distance him from Roman in the title right now and have him focus on Brock. But but I will say this. I really love the idea of Brock versus Cody. I think it's a really good match. It's something we've never seen before. I remember back in high school wrestling, because Brock was already on the show back then. I went to high school from 2002 to 2006. So Brock was on the show then. And I remember in our wrestling room, Cody and us, we'd be talking about watching Brock on Raw and SmackDown and stuff back then. So it's really cool knowing he's going to be wrestling him 20 years later in a main event of a pay-per-view. I'm really, really excited for that. But it's crucial that he wins this match. I mean, obviously. So yeah, I don't know. That's kind of how I feel about all of it. I like the matchup. It should be for the title. And I am worried because it is still Brock Lesnar. And there's always a chance that with the new ownership, especially, they could just look at stuff and be we know Roman works. We know Brock's worked forever. We still don't know enough about Cody. And they might just go with you know what I mean? We don't know. We don't know who they're really trusting right now with all this. So I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Wrestling Brock Lesnar for Cody is cool until Brock's that Crossroads stuff, that Cody Cutter stuff don't work for me, brother. I'm going to catch that, turn that into an F5.
So there's been a question we've been asking people in interviews lately about Cody Rhodes and his street fighting skills, right? Okay. Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar in a UFC fight. Okay. All I'm saying.
What? No.
All I'm saying.
No.
Is Brock Lesnar lost to Alistair Overeem and Cain Velasquez. Cody is undefeated in the UFC. That's all I'm saying. Okay, continue.
Brock would punch that man in the face so
Cody
hard.
is undefeated in the UFC.
Not
Just
go
saying.
well.
CM Punk 0-2. Cody undefeated.
Would not go
Just
well.
saying. No, I'm not delusional. I'm not trying to even get Cody in a position like that.
Yeah, you're gonna get Cody killed out there.
No, there's no one that has a chance against Brock in that company in a real fight. Even Lashley would get destroyed by him in an actual fight. And Lashley's the second most badass guy, like legitimately in that company. So, yeah.
Chad Gable would beat Brock Lesnar in a shoot fight.
Yo, Chad Gable's a badass, though. Absolutely a badass. Anyways, I was just kidding about the Cody thing. I just wanted to bring that up because I know people have seen me ask. We've been asking about the Cody and Kingston stuff. And we finally got a good answer about the street fight recently.
No, we didn't. No.
Really. Anyways, yeah, this is gonna get so off topic. Sorry about that. But yeah. Anyway, go ahead. Continue.
Cody should win. He should beat Brock Lesnar. Is he going to? Like you, I kind of have my doubts after WrestleMania because WrestleMania seemed like a sure thing, and there's like, no, not going to do that. Maybe he's got to overcome more adversity.
That's what I'm worried about. Is like how beat down do they think he needs to be for us to think it's adversity, even though we all thought it was adversity before he even came back? Like that's where I'm at with. I'm exactly where you are. Is like, do they feel like the loss to Roman is enough adversity for him to come back from, and now he has to rebuild by beating Brock and others? Or does he have to get beat by Brock also? And he's going to hit like an even more of a rock bottom before they try to rebuild him, which I think is a terrible idea.
It would not be good if he loses to Brock as well. Because I equated it to the Cena story last week of Cena loses to Rock at WrestleMania. He's like, oh, this is his down point. Brock attacks him. Same way Brock attacked Cody Raw after WrestleMania. And then Cena went on to beat Brock at the next show, which people were surprised by because it's like, wait a second, if Cena's hitting rock bottom, why is he just beating the returning Brock Lesnar here? What are we doing? And so it's similar here of, okay, if Cody's hit rock bottom, why is he beating Brock Lesnar? But then should Brock beat Cody to beat Cody down further? I said it last week as well. It's like, I don't know how good Cody is at playing the underneath role as the guy who is chasing. The promos these past 2 weeks have not hit that well for me. I think Cody is a fantastic promo. I think when he speaks, the way he strings together words, especially his tone, his conviction, it's all very good. When Cody Rhodes speaks, you are listening to that man. Does that mean the material is always good? No. And the material the last 2 weeks has been, like you said, it's been a little over the place. 1 week, he's like, I had you. Like, without Solo, I would have beaten you. And then this week, it's, you were the better man. I was not prepared for all of this. It's like, wait, what are we doing here, Cody? It's mixed messages there. I think Cody is great at the rah, fire up kind of stuff, but being the beaten down person when he is chasing as the challenger, doesn't hit for me in the same way. And this is why Cody probably should have won, and he should have just continued to be the Cena, be the Hogan person of like, let's rally everybody together. And then, yeah, I'll overcome in the matches. It doesn't have to be the same formula as Hogan and Cena because Cody isn't that type of guy when it comes to match structure, but it needed to be sort of the same personality of going out there and firing everybody up and overcoming in that way. Because there's different types of adversity, right? Like there's different types of adversity. Overcoming adversity does not mean you just got to lose a bunch of wrestling matches. You can overcome the adversity in the wrestling match. Cody would have overcome an adversity in the WrestleMania match because, oh, here's Solo. Oh, wait, Solo gets kicked out. Okay, you had to overcome. Here's the Usos. Okay, Sammy and Kevin come out. You overcome that. Solo can come back. He can hit Cody with the spike. Roman can hit the spear. Cody should have kicked out of that. That's still overcoming some adversity in the match. As we've mentioned, overcoming Stardust, overcoming his entire first WWE run altogether, he was not welcome on the independent scene at first. Like the crowd, right. The crowd was not really behind him. There was a lot of play wrestler in his act. It didn't seem like he really found his footing until he started doing Bullet Club stuff. And then AEW, he was the top guy. They probably should have put the title on him then. He booked himself into a corner with all of that. And he had to overcome all of that. And did he do a great job of overcoming that with his meta heel stuff. I don't know. That didn't connect with me fully. I found it funny. The Codyverse was hilarious to me, but clearly the crowd had a mixed reaction on all of that. So there's different types of overcoming adversity. They are choosing the route of let's just have this man lose and then look like a dork when he cuts this promos, and it ain't working. It's not really working for it. Christian says Cody's promo this week was not hitting for me until the point I am at line, and that's the way Cody should be approaching the adversity, with confidence, knowing he's the better man. Right. I don't disagree with that at all. Like, I don't like that line was very good. Again, when he has lines, he has points, he hammers them home. He is good at that stuff. But sometimes the overall material just gets lost in the bigger picture, the bigger story of his promos. It doesn't always work for me. But yeah, when he hits a point like that, it's very memorable. And that's why Cody is such a good promo. Chi-Town Spurs says, on typical WWE fashion, the adversity Cody has to overcome is their own manufactured adversity and not the organic adversity. 100% agree with that.
That's pretty much exactly what I was going to say, Chi-Town Spurs. Yeah, took the words out of my mouth. That's I think in WWE's mind, they are so used to, and I'm not even saying this is necessarily a bad thing. I understand why they do this because of their audience. Because they're approaching this. Cody's kind of different because they have to know there's a different audience that's been tuning in for him since he's been back, with like the Cody countdown and the way the ratings spike and stuff. Like, they have to know that. But generally speaking, they've always done this kind of stuff where like they're not expecting you as the viewer to really know the backstory. They want to manufacture the whole thing in front of you. So they want all these, 8-year-old, 10-year-old kids and stuff who might not have any knowledge of AEW or might not have seen anything about Cody's AEW run or indie run, may not have seen Cody at all at Stardust or, in his former WWE run. And all they're seeing is this guy who came in last year, had some banger matches, got hurt, came back, won the Rumble, and like that's the most. And they've heard of Dusty Rhodes, but they've never seen Dusty Rhodes wrestle. You know what I mean? So I think the WWE audience, like, I understand that to them they might think that like their audience hasn't seen the adversity, because everything we're talking about for the most part was like either, once again, first WWE run, which was already years ago at this point, or indie run, which they might not have been paying attention to. The difference, once again, though, is you could hear it in the reactions, because like the pops he was getting heading into WrestleMania and at WrestleMania was so massive that it's like you didn't need to fill anyone in. Like, you got it, you did it, he's over. Like, you could put the belt on him. You don't need to make it. You don't need to add anything else to this. Like, this is the final package. This is the package that you bought. You bought the American Nightmare package with the blonde hair and the music and the entrance gear and everything. Like, you bought that package, and it worked. And the kids who were too young to understand all the backstory, they don't need to know the backstory, because look at them. They're showing up wearing Cody Rhodes merchandise. He's handing them the weight belt. He's mega over with kids. You don't even need to know about the Bullet Club and know about All In and know about AEW and stuff. He's just over. So I agree with, completely agree with Chi-Town Spurs and everything that you're saying. Like, it's all hand in hand. But the difference is they just didn't need to do it with Cody. They just had and this isn't me being biased as a Cody family. This is just the honest truth. I don't want to say lucky, but like they wound up in this really rare situation where, without having to really do a whole lot, like lore wise or background wise, Cody came in super over against Seth Rollins at WrestleMania, and he stayed over, and it became even more over because of his injury and doing the Hell in a Cell match. So it's like they had it. Like, they didn't even need to do all this extra stuff. They just had it, and the timing was perfect. And that's why that's just another just layer to why. Because once again, even if they give Cody the title later, which I think they still very well could, I just can't imagine. I don't think there's anything they can do between now and whenever that is that will make him hotter than he was heading into WrestleMania. So anything they do just seems like a backstep. Or once again, it just seems like they should have just done everything they're about to do just with him as the champion already. So
they could have done the overcoming adversity all before this as well, and he would have been just as hot. So when he had the torn pec, when he had the pec injury, he could have lost to Seth Rollins. People would have been like, hey, look, torn pec, losing to Seth Rollins. He already beat Seth twice. He could have lost to Rollins, gone on the shelf, right? and then comes back in the Rumble. They had him enter 30. They didn't have to enter him 30. They could have had him enter literally anywhere else. He could have been number 1 because it wasn't a surprise. They told you he was coming back. So he could have been number 1. He could have even been like 15 or something to show like he just was in there a little bit longer. But number 30 made it seem like, oh, you didn't really have to. And you beat the guy. You tossed the guy who was number 1 and who had been in there the entire time. Like that could have been the adversity, is coming back from the torn pec already in and of itself adversity. Putting him at number 30, that was a decision they made. They could have put him anywhere else to show whatever this adversity they want him to go through is. And if he lost to Rollins, and then he beats Roman at WrestleMania, you have an automatic feud right there. You still could have done the Brock feud, same way. Then you could have circled back to the Seth feud, and it would have made a lot more sense because Seth would have had that victory over Cody.
Yeah.
Like that's your SummerSlam main event right there. If you're asking me, like Seth and Cody, like I feel like it's a big main event. I know people might, because we saw it so much last year, people wouldn't like it too much, but like Seth is over. The babyface heel dynamic maybe gets a little lost, but Seth is very good at switching with that. Because I think Seth is still kind of heelish. It's just he's been working against a guy like Logan Paul, who's nobody's gonna boo, and his song is very over. But I mean, Chris Jericho's song is very over, and he still finds ways to get them to boo. Seth can do the same thing. So they had an adversity story going into WrestleMania. One that could have been slightly manufactured with their own booking of Seth winning or putting Cody not 30 in the Rumble. And one that was actually organic of just everything going against the bloodline. Like that's adversity in and of itself. So they had that. Yeah. Instead, it is let's beat you over the head with this guy is beaten down and now he needs to overcome that, which WWE has always had a problem with, of like, instead of the subtle stuff, which they've done a decent job with throughout the bloodline story. They've done the subtle stuff, but everything else, the majority of their history is beat you over the head with stuff. And they are going to beat you over the head with adversity. Christian Knight says, I hate that WWE is trying to create this adversity for Cody. Like Dak said, all they needed to do was going Stardust. Now that was the adversity. I don't think they highlighted the torn pec stuff enough in the build up. Like that was a big moment. And maybe it was because like, hey, we don't want to show you this is what he actually overcame and this is what he came back from, because again, we got to create our own adversity when it comes to Cody. And this loss is how we create it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, and I mean, even you can even link adversity to just the simple idea that like just how, I don't want to say dumb, because like either way, Cody is like, he's one of their top guys with or without the belt at this point. Like he came in but like, and he said this himself in interviews, so that's why I'm okay with saying it, but like he doesn't want to look stupid either. Like he left a company he founded to come back because of probably a lot of promises. And like, you know, I'm not necessarily saying that they flat out told him, if you come back, we're giving you the world title. I'm not necessarily saying that, but like for him to make that kind of move, to leave AEW and to come back to WWE, he had to have had a real confidence, regardless of how much money he's getting, which I'm sure that was a gigantic part of it too. But like, you know what I'm saying? It's like to make that, that's incredibly risky to make a move like that. And you can look really, really stupid if you come over and they just wind up not going all the way with you after all that. And it'd be one thing if they brought him in and he just jobbed out, which obviously they didn't do that. It was nothing near that. But now that's where my fear starts really lying, is like, well, do they see Cody as the guy or not? Because if they don't, then I could see him losing to someone like Brock. I could see him losing to some other top guys and him just kind of becoming kind of like everyone else. Maybe he gets the title at some point, maybe he doesn't, but they need to, once again, that's why it's very important he beats Brock, and he needs to do it convincingly. It can't be some BS ref bump, shortcut, small package, schoolboy roll up type thing. Like Cody needs to beat him 1, 2, 3 with a crossroads straight up, or he needs to tap him, which would be even more powerful. If you could somehow tap Brock, like they need to do something to really establish Cody as like, you can't fuck with this dude. The Roman thing, like they need a position like Roman's win over Cody was a fluke. Like like everything else is always positioned the other way. Like people are barely getting by, or like someone's barely getting by. Cody had it, and they need to make that really clear. So he needs to go. He needs to run. I don't say he has to run through Brock, but I think he needs to decisively beat him without any controversy. And then, and also, like, do you think that like maybe Brock could ever like join into the bloodline or something, like almost like two-man power trip with Roman at some point? Because I'm thinking like both of them with Heyman. It's if Brock's gonna stay a heel, I could see like maybe them if like the Usos can't like. I've just kind of been thinking about stuff going forward. Like if the Usos can't win back the tag belts and like maybe Solo's the only guy that and Jay winds up turning, I could see them maybe doing like a Roman and Brock thing like together at some point with under Heyman. I don't know. There's a lot of possibility with all this stuff. But once again, sticking on the Cody thing, he's got to beat Brock. It's very, very, very important. And I think everyone agrees with the whole adversity thing. Nobody needed to see this extra layer of adversity. Everyone was there to see him win at WrestleMania. So, now it's on them to like make this right and get him in a position to where people want to see it that badly again. So
I think the two-man power trip makes sense on paper because we never got to see what that fully was with Austin and Triple H because Triple H got hurt. With Roman and Brock, though, it doesn't. I don't know if it quite aligns. I can't see like Brock like being close with Roman.
No, I
Roman
get it.
Like.
But if like Brock can't challenge Roman for the title anymore, especially, and I know this seems like quote unquote below Brock, I'm sure, but there's all these rumors about Brock and Gunther. If they did Brock and Gunther and like Brock actually won the Intercontinental title, like, and you had Brock as the IC champion and Roman as the world champion, or if they split the two titles at some point soon, again, and you had Brock as one champion and Roman as the other or something. It is an idea that I think is worth thinking about. But now that Brock's a heel again, it just made me think, like, why wouldn't he get back with Paul Heyman? You know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't he just align with Roman Reigns? And, so anyway, just something to think about if it does wind up happening at some point. But you're right about the two-man power trip thing. We all look back on it like it was a really cool opportunity, but we never got to see it play out because of Triple H's injury. So
what's Cody's finishing move that he taps Brock with? Is he use the figure four?
So like that's the one you would think, but
what about an arm triangle?
Like a UFC style, like from the bottom?
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
No. An arm triangle. So like top mount arm triangle.
Oh, like a head and arm triangle.
Yeah, head arm triangle. Yeah.
No, that is an arm triangle. That's the same. It's the same as calling like a double wrist lock Kimura. It's the same move. Yeah. I don't know. That's kind of a good, but in pro wrestling, that is will pin someone if you can put someone like that. That's why I never understood CM Punk using the Anaconda Vice in pro wrestling. And this isn't me knocking Punk. It's just like you might as well just pin them. You know what I mean? Right. If you have someone on the shoulder, they're on their shoulders already, and you have them in that hold, and it's professional wrestling. Just hold them down for 3 seconds. You don't need to tap them. But
not a good titty twister. What if you just
titty twister?
Yeah, twisted Brock's tits, and then Brock tapped out.
But figure four would be. The only problem with the figure four is that it's just been so played out that you just never really see people tap to it anymore. There was a while, this was already like 10 years ago, but I remember Adam Cole got it over pretty big again for a little while in Ring of Honor when he was the champion. But yeah, but I don't know. But it's just the idea of like, it'd be even more powerful to see Brock tap out. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just trying to think of any way they can make Cody look the best possible coming out of this thing. So
a north-south choke. I don't see those in wrestling too often.
That'd be pretty cool. But once again, you're pinning someone, basically.
Yeah, but you could get it from like the bottom and stuff and turn it over, like nice little gator roll on there. I'm trying to like incorporate Cody's sort of amateur. Yeah.
Stormbreaker said the crossface chicken wing because of the rubber chicken. That's actually a good Stormbreaker. That's a good one. Yeah, I don't know. But it'd be good for him to have a did he not ever use like a Indian Deathlock type move ever? I feel like he did for like a short time, but anyway, the whole point is regardless of what the submission hold would be, I think it'd be good for him to also have a submission finisher. Like it's always good to have that option. Even Brock, over the years, like he'll use Kimuras. I remember the Brock lock when he put like someone's leg behind his head, and that was great.
Stretch muffler.
The stretch muscle. Yeah, the stretch muffler. Yeah, the Brock Lock. That was a great move. So anyway, yeah. So that's kind of how I feel about it.
Last point on Cody for me. One thing that I know people have mentioned this before, but one thing that got lost in not putting the belts on Cody, but yet he's still pretty much the face of Raw, is that they could have done a lot of this with the title, and it all feels less than because he didn't win the title, even though he's still the face of Raw. And we've dealt with this with Roman for the past few years now, where he's not showing up to every show. He's not headlining every show. And they did a good job of getting the US title over, especially when Lashley had it and when Rollins had it as well. Like, it's lost a little bit since Theory has had it, but Roman has been showing up for a lot of that. And Sammy and Kevin and that whole story has really carried things. But now that Sammy and Kevin have the titles, the story takes a little bit of a downturn, because that was the peak, right? Like, Sammy and Kevin winning the titles was the peak. It was never going to crescendo that high again. So the natural the natural movement is to take a downturn a little bit. But they could have mitigated that some with Cody. Hey, the champion is here every week on every show, and because they don't have the title on them now, it's like you have Raw. Cody's still the top guy. What's Austin Theory and the US title is the top thing. Like, he beat John Cena, which should have been a big deal, but then he needs help beating Rey Mysterio on Raw. He's not on the show last week. I assume he was part of the travel issue thing, so I can't really hold that against him. I don't know that for sure. But if he wasn't used because they didn't decide to use him, I don't know. But the Theory, I'm on record of saying I don't think that's the guy right there. So I'm quite like trying to build the show around him or anything. And then on SmackDown, like, they're still going with the Sammy, Kevin, Uso stuff, which is good. You've inserted Riddle into that now. Storyline wise, makes sense. Personal wise, other thoughts and feelings on that. But again, the natural thing is that it's going to just go down from WrestleMania because you were building towards that peak. Cody being the champion could have helped a lot of this out and make these shows feel more important. Like, I don't think that the shows don't feel quite as important to me with Cody coming off this loss and still, I'm going to face Brock Lesnar type of thing, and then the champion not actually being there. And I think they lost something when they just didn't put the title on Cody and making the shows feel extra important because the champion's actually showing up every single week.
Yeah, I'm with you.
My WWE Spotlight, Stephen Jensen, is Trish Stratus. There's an important person. Trish Stratus has turned on Rebecca Lynch and Lita. So Lita was laid out backstage. We don't know who did it. And then they decided, well, Trish is going to take Lita's place in the women's title, tag team title defense against Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. And then Trish lost the match and then kicked Becky in the head. Trish is a terrible friend and apparently a terrible competitor because she just got rolled up and lost the titles for her friends. I know the turn was heavily rumored and people thought it might happen at WrestleMania. What'd you think of this turn and how it was set up and executed?
I'm fine with it. Like, I actually probably prefer Trish as a heel right now anyways. Sometimes this works and sometimes it doesn't when you bring back like a veteran and you want him to switch it up like that. But sometimes you need that. So like, it's really situational. For instance, I think Trish is honestly one of, if not like the most important WWE women like ever. So like, I'm always going to give her massive credit where it's due. Especially because for people who don't remember or might not know, she came in as a manager for Test and Albert, TNA, not the company, but the tag team. And they, and she wasn't a wrestler. Like, and she was essentially, literally, she was eye candy. Like, she wasn't, there was no, that was the era back then. There was a lot of valets, that kind of stuff that didn't really wrestle. And Trish like made it a point to not only learn how to wrestle, but got really, really, really good at it and became, like I said, one of the most important women, I think, in WWE history. And now that she's back, even on like a somewhat regular basis, they need to think of like fresh things to do with her. And I think that this is something that's going to work really well. The kind of contrast to this, or like the double-edged sword, or like the flip side or whatever, is like, I don't think it worked really well with like Edge, when they tried to do the Judgment Day thing. So like you have to just kind of be careful about how you use veterans, because there is an expectation, I think, of kind of what you're going to see out of them, or if it's going to be something totally different, you need to make sure it clicks. Because otherwise people are just going to be like, damn. Because with the Edge stuff, I'm a really big fan of Edge historically. I am, and I know you're not, but when he came back, it was really cool to see because it'd been so long. But then when he changed his character and changed his theme music and started this whole Judgment Day group and all that stuff, myself and many others that I was seeing online and stuff, it really seemed like most people were like, damn, are we really like wasting the last few years of Edge on this? Why aren't we just doing Edge versus so-and-so and so-and-so and just a bunch of dream matches? And so that's kind of the two sides of this that I just wanted to bring up. Is I really like the idea of Trish turning heel because I think it makes stuff fresh, and I think it's going to give her more longevity of being more interesting going forward on the show. But I also don't want it to be something that's like so different than what we're used to seeing out of her that people are just sitting there like, damn, I wish we were just getting, classic Trish Stratus, just dream matches while we have her. You know what I mean? It feels like you just got to be careful with, you have limited time with these legends and their availability. So you just got to be, really careful about like optimizing, what you're putting on screen while you got them. It is the only thing that I guess I'd bring up. So.
Well, it looks like we're going towards Trish and Becky, which is a dream.
Which is great. So. That's all I'm saying is I just don't want them to like totally change Trish. Like, because like Edge, they totally changed. Like, because like Judgment Day character was totally different.
I don't know who pitched the judge. It seems like Edge actually pitched all of that. Right. And now in hindsight, he realizes that seemed like a mistake because it was swimming upstream. People didn't want to boo Edge because legitimately Edge did come back from a career-ending injury, and everybody was just so happy to have him back. And then he came back from another injury when in the greatest match ever against Randy Orton. He came back from that match as well. He also had to go through the pandemic era where he came back at Rumble and then immediately hits pandemic. Crowds didn't get a chance to cheer him or anything. So people just didn't want to boo Edge. And then it was like, hey, boo Edge. The other thing with that is Judgment Day, how it was presented, the whole setup and Edge trying to be spooky, like trying to do this new Brood thing didn't work when we knew just too much of Adam Copeland, the person. That's why this Brood Edge stuff just isn't working for it when he's a floating head in front of candles and stuff. None of that it doesn't hit with me at all. So I think Edge was almost put in a position seemingly by himself to fail with a lot of that stuff. Trish, there's a lot bit more like meat on this in that she comes back on her own volition. She didn't have to overcome a career-ending injury type of thing. She's been back and forth. She retired at SummerSlam in the Charlotte match, but decided to just come back because she wanted to come back. There's an actual story there of like Becky and Lita, Becky choosing Lita choosing Becky to win the titles with Trish, obviously being best friends with Lita, Trish helping Becky prior to WrestleMania a few years ago. So there's an actual story there with them. And Trish is very good as a heel and just playing off of real life stuff with that. She's not getting caught up in a bunch of spooky nonsense like Judgment Day was supposed to do either. Like this is just a real story when it comes to Trish. So I think it works. I saw people were a little upset with the turn because like, I wish it would have been built a little bit more and everything. Like there were some body language signs that were there when it came with Trish and Lita and Trish and Becky. So there were some small subtle things that were there. And I'm going to trust that Trish can cut the promo to really explain everything of why, what her motivation was on this. And at the end of the day, it's going to lead to Trish and Becky. I think at this stages of their career, Trish is a better worker than Becky. I think that match will be good. Becky has been very good since she's been back from injury. Really, since she's been back from one, the injury, and two, since she came back from giving birth. So I think Becky's been good. I'm looking forward to the match whenever it happens. So I like the turn. Becky gets a good feud as the man and everything. So I like it. The women's tag team titles, they're an afterthought of all of this. And that seems to be, I don't know, by design, but that's where they're at. That's their place on the card, right?
Yeah.
Like, no point in getting upset with that in my mind.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right, AEW Spotlight, Stephen Jensen. We got plenty to talk about with AEW.
I'm old and I'm fucking tired and I work with fucking children. I'm tired of wrestling these kids that think they know everything.
Yeah, so your new bumpers. Let's go. Okay. Yep.
CM Punk.
Yep.
In September, he was tired of wrestling these kids who think they know everything. But now, according to Dax Harwood and according to Sean Ross Sapp, he wants to wrestle these kids who think they know everything. Maybe he got younger. Maybe he had a good nap. He got some good sleep over these past few months. He's no longer injured. He seems to be recovered. And all these men are adults now. They've grown up since September. CM Punk is ready to return. He misses wrestling. We didn't get a chance to talk about it last week, Jensen, because it was a very Cody-centric show. I commented on it a little bit after we did the interview, but AEW announced All In for Wembley Stadium, and they're trying to sell upwards of 50,000 tickets for that thing. I think they want to hit 60. I don't know if they will. I kind of think they will be around 60, but they definitely, I think they're shooting for 50. And if they hit 60, good on. That's triple their attendance record, which is 20,000 at Arthur Ashe right now. You need something big for that show. Dax Harwood has said, you want to sell these tickets, FTR CM Punk against the Elite. This is the way to do it. A lot of reports he wants to return. What are we thinking here, Jensen? You ready? You ready to look in the eyes? See what you see? Cult of personality?
Yeah, so, there's a few things that I think are really important to all of this that we need to keep in mind. And I'll probably repeat myself quite a bit, but I don't know how much of this I can really say that I haven't already said about the whole situation. And I don't want to repeat myself too much because, but something that I think is really important that people need to understand this whole situation. I don't think this is a situation where it's on CM Punk to make this decision at all.
Sure.
And that's, I see a lot of people that are like, all right, he wants to come back. He's probably wanted to come back this whole time. It's a matter of, do the Elite want to work with him? And that's speculation, by the way. I don't know that. But my guess is that CM Punk's probably wanted to come back the whole time, whether he feels kind of stupid or silly for what he said, or he just wants to be able to get the money that's owed to him in his contract, or whatever the motivations are. I think he's wanted to come back the whole time. And of course, the injury is what kept him out up to this point, but now he can come back. So, but it's not really up to him, I don't think. I think it's a matter of Tony Khan feeling comfortable with him being back. Obviously, there's a lot of money to be made business-wise. I totally understand that. But it's a matter of, do the Elite, does Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks want to work with him? Does Hangman Page want to work with him? And I just don't know the answer to that. I think that, I know that AEW is going to be in Chicago, the Dynamite before Forbidden Door. So that's going to lead to a lot of speculation that CM Punk's going to come back in Chicago, which I could see happening. If he's going to come back, that'd probably make sense that he do it then. But because that's when's the Wembley show?
End of August 26th.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, that would give them plenty of time to they can promote Forbidden Door that week. They got plenty of time before the Wembley show for All In.
Yeah, they have 2 months.
Yeah, so that'd actually be perfect. And that's if he's coming back, that'll be when I think would be that Chicago Dynamite before All In. Sorry, before Forbidden Door. But I'm going to be honest, someone I feel bad about in this whole situation is Cash Wheeler. I'm going to be honest, because he's not saying anything about any of this. And Dax, I like Dax. I think he's a great dude. And the whole his family story and all that stuff, it's very touching. I think he's a great guy. I am absolutely a Dax the Axe fan. But I don't know if what he's going out there and saying is doing anyone any favors. So if I'm being completely honest, I love Matt Kuhn as well, obviously. I've had him on the show. I love that podcast. I think it's great stuff. But the reason I'm bringing this up is just because it just does not seem kind of weird to you, the whole situation. It's Dax is kind of speaking for Punk, but
okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so FTR Silent is FTR Silent for a reason, and then there's FTR Loud, who is
for hair and bald, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I wanted to touch on this. So I'm glad you brought this up. It does seem like there is a very big public relations game being played here of court of public opinion being played with Dax.
That's what I'm trying to get to.
Constantly,
yes.
Constantly bringing this up like he wants to come back. He misses, Dax did the live show and he's like, I got a text from Punk. He says he misses everybody. Wish I could get you all ice cream bars and stuff. Like, Dax is speaking a lot publicly on this stuff. Again, Sean puts out the report of like CM Punk has told people he's told AEW he wants to come back and everything. Like, there's a lot of public, like you said, I'm sure CM Punk wants to come back. I'm sure he's been wanting to come back. He sees this as an opportunity. Hey, let's make money. He's on Instagram. He's on a Pro Wrestling Podcast Instagram page commenting on all of this stuff. Like, he's out there talking not necessarily about the incident, but just about his missing pro wrestling and wanting to coming back and how he thinks like, yeah, put it aside. Let's make money. All of this stuff. He posted the picture of him as Rocky yesterday on his Instagram page. Like, yeah, I'm sure he does want to come back. To a point you made, I don't think he feels silly about any of this. I think he still feels he's 100% correct in this situation. And Mike, I've said this entire time, and you've said it as well, is like, we've kind of heard Punk's side of all of this. Like, we kind of know how Punk feels about all of this. There's another party all involved to this, and how do they feel? Because they are not being public about this. Kenny Omega has said very little about it. He said, like, we want to do good for pro wrestling and everything. Very cliche, generic. I'm not going to upset anybody. But then there was, they did the troll match in Chicago, I believe, that trios match where they're hitting go to sleeps and they're doing a bunch of Punk references and everything. They trolled with Colt Cabana coming back. Then he's been kind of sidelined, just doing producing. I know he did have an injury, but so they've done some petty things like that, as you've come to expect from the Elite. But like, as far as just commenting on it in interviews or social media posts, they just haven't. They haven't done any of that. It was supposed to, I don't know if it's supposed to be covered. Sorry. But the timeline matched up where All Access was being filmed around all of this, and they don't want to talk about that at all. It's just like, yeah, we've been away. We don't want to talk about what happened. We've just been away. Now we're coming back and we're wondering how things are going to go. The Young Bucks, haven't really commented on it at all. It's just very much like, we're not going to talk about it. Obviously, Tony has no commented on all of this. No matter how you frame the question, he's no commented on all of it. So there is another side that people are just almost ignoring because they're like, Punk wants to return, bring him back, a lot of money to be made. Again, there's a big public thing here with Dax and these reports of people are basically framing it, or people are of the opinion, because of how it's being covered through comments by Dax and things like that, of like, they want to return. Why aren't they returning? Like, why aren't they being brought back? Oh, the Elite are holding them back. Oh, Tony doesn't want to bring them back. It's like, I don't think there's truth to that. I don't think it's like, oh, the Elite are saying we don't want him to come back. I think there are still fences that need to be very much mended, bridges that need to be very much rebuilt. And I don't know what steps have been made to doing that. Like, yeah, it's very easy to say, I want to return. I want to return. Like, just to use like a personal example here of all of this stuff. Let's just say we did this show one day and I just completely buried you on everything.
Right. I was sitting right next to you on screen.
Yeah. Like, Stephen Jensen, unprofessional. Yeah. Just he shows up late all the time. I don't like his opinions. I don't like any of this stuff. Like, just completely. You know who I would actually bury, Jensen? I would just bury Kate, because I actually don't like working with Kate. I think she's terrible. I've given her everything that she's ever had. Like, the only reason she has all of these shows, especially the Friday show, is because of me. I just handed that to her on a silver platter.
Jeremy, all right, you listen to me, and you listen to me good. The reason I took over the Friday show is you weren't getting the job done. You don't have the star power, all right, to see what it takes. You're not the draw that I am, just like the Elite just aren't the draw.
See, I can do that and just...
Oh.
What do you have to say? Why are you here?
Well, did you see the kind of shape that Punk is in? He looks great. And I feel like nobody's really talking about it.
Oh, no, I haven't.
You haven't seen it? Let me see if I can.
Could he beat Cody Rhodes in a street fight?
Oh my god!
I mean, first of all, of course
God,
he could.
Please don't.
Cody's such a big loser. So.
Oh my, yeah, it's because
Where's
CM Punk's a big UFC winner.
Arguably Cody Rhodes is a better UFC.
I agree. Cody's undefeated. Cody's undefeated in the UFC.
Where's this picture?
All I'm saying.
Why
We
can't
talked about that
I-
earlier. Cody versus Brock in the UFC. Cody's got the advantage. He's undefeated. Brock isn't.
That's a really good point. Jensen, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Kate?
You all right? I'm
Yeah.
all right. I'm sick. I got sinuses. It's 85 degrees here. I had a winter coat on like 2 weeks ago. What's happening? Like,
Yeah, it's weird here too in Atlanta. Where are we? Are we getting a picture of Punk?
yeah, I'm
I don't
trying
know.
to
Kate
upload
is
it.
on
I mean,
here just
I've, like-
ruining things. We have
Oh
time.
yeah, I know. I did see
Look
that.
at the
yeah.
shape this guy is in.
Yeah.
Look, he is ripped. All right, he is jacked to the gills. He looks great. He's obviously been training. I don't know what happened to all his
Face looks a little
tattoos.
weird. Face
He's-
looks a little weird.
His face does look a little bit off, but new hair. I don't know, maybe the tanning or something is messing with the tattoos, but I think he looks great. Look at the shape this guy's in. He looks like he's watched all the Rocky movies. That's all I'm saying.
He's watched all the Rocky movies now.
Had to have.
Do you have anything else to add to this, Kate?
I just wanted to say hi.
Okay.
I sincerely I've been thinking about Jensen like every time Cody Rhodes is on my screen, and it makes me
As we all
bummed.
should.
As we all should, but I mostly came on here because I'm a certified CM Punk expert, and you guys were talking about it, and I didn't want you to have uninformed opinions.
Oh, appreciate that. I have very, very, very informed Punk take. Well, I don't know how much more we're going to really talk about Punk, to be honest, today. I was going to wrap a bow on my side of it and just say that, regardless of when he comes back, you just had to be prepared for him to do this again. So it's just like, if you're going to bring him back, just know it's a matter of time before he cries about something else and puts your company in another bad spot. But
one thing that I was thinking about was like, his contract's probably a lot of money, right? I think it's fair to assume. And he's been sidelined with injury for a really long time. I'm like, is his attitude going to keep him from them being like, you know what? We're not going to hold injury time against you on the contract. Maybe we'll just ride out what we have. Because that's like, I don't know. There's so much we don't know. Like, there's so much talk of all this stuff and nothing's really been decided. But I do think it's very suspicious that they announced their Canadian dates in Wembley. Like, right? I mean, that feels like they're setting up for
Chicago right before Forbidden Door. Like, that's pretty telling, I think. So.
Yeah, and I don't know what they're gonna work out, but it certainly feels like if you're booking Canada and you want Punk to come back as a top heel, like Punk versus Omega is sitting right there. So
yeah, I mean, it'd be massive for sure.
But
for sure,
I just wanted to. Jeremy always does run-ins. I was like, why can't I do a run-in?
Yes,
I thought I'd show up. But I hope you guys have a good day.
Thanks, you too, Kate.
Bye, Kate.
Guys, drink your water.
And
take care of yourselves. Get your rest. There you go. Ooh, Capri Sun? OG flavor or what you got?
You got a fruit punch.
Fruit punch. Very nice. Very classy. Respect.
Thank you. Appreciate
that.
Have
fun, guys.
All right. See you, Kate.
Bye.
The way I almost...
There. Get out of here. Should probably about hit in broadcast because I do that a lot when I
almost do that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I leave the show, then before you do the interviews, I always double check that. But no, I mean, I get it. There's definitely a lot of money to be made for CM Punk coming back. There's definitely a lot of money he wants to be paid because he's going to be, there's money, I'm sure, on his contract that he can't get unless he's there. So I'm sure there's plenty of motivations for Punk to want to be back, but if you're the Elite, do you want to deal with him? And that's what I think it really comes down to. Or if you're Tony Khan and the Elite and or most of the locker room, because we're not talking about just the Elite either, really. I mean, Mox has issues with him. He's had issues forever with guys like Eddie Kingston. Like there's a lot of people that just, he's had, and once again, it comes down to this. If you want to get the bag, like if Punk wants to make his money, Tony Khan wants to make a good amount of money. They want to try to pay this thing off with CM Punk and the Elite, CM Punk versus Kenny Omega, CM Punk versus Hangman Page, like all that kind of stuff. I'm all for the idea of that because I do think CM Punk's run on AEW television was fantastic. I'll never take that away from the guy, but they just have to go into it knowing that this will probably happen again. Something like this will happen again. There's this track record of it that goes all the way back to the early 2000s of some of these people I just mentioned. Punk can't get along with people from 20 years ago. Punk had his public exit from the WWE with the pipe bomb and the interviews after and the failed UFC run and all this stuff. It's just not. At some point, at some point, the AEW is gonna have to deal with a similar situation to this again, probably while he's there. And what's really shitty about it too is like he was not long before that, he was literally sitting next to Tony Khan crying tears of joy. The opposite was happening, talking about and talking about like the ROH library and all that stuff, right? Like, and just how happy he was to be back. And it wasn't long after, we're talking just like a few months later, and it's all flipped complete 180. And now he hates everyone and everyone's an idiot. And I think I've talked about this before. I couldn't, not even just in like a pro wrestling setting, but for my shoot job, I couldn't ever just like, not even publicly, even privately, but publicly it'd be even worse. Like you just said, we're sitting right next to each other talking about something that has to do with work in front of everyone we work with and everyone who knows about our company. And I just roast my boss right in front of them. They'd be like, my boss would get rid of me. They'd be like, okay, you can't do that. You're fired. It's not only
that. It's what I was saying beforehand is like, I just bury you, then I punch you and bite you as well. And then a few months later, I'm like, I don't know if there's been an apology, but a few months later, I'm like, you know what? I really want to do the spotlight again. I miss doing the spotlight with Jensen. And
right.
Like, you
It'd
just
be on me to decide if I want to even work with you anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, so, I mean, I think it's pretty simple to look at it exactly like that. Could they make a lot of money? Yes. But is it worth dividing the locker room or whatever the consequence could be of bringing him back, which we just don't know. I mean, he has plenty of supporters too. It sounds like there's plenty of wrestlers that want him back. I know I see him hanging out with Brody King in a lot of pictures and stuff recently. And obviously he's got the relationship with Dax, and like, it's not like everyone wants him out. And there are people who are going to have his side. Like, I get that. But once again, I got to make this really clear. If it comes down to, even as simple as if it comes down to Kenny Omega versus CM Punk, I'm picking Kenny Omega. If it comes down to Kenny Omega and the Elite versus CM Punk, I'm obviously taking all the Elite. Like, I just don't. If we were talking CM Punk from 2011 and he was still like that age and that over and that big of like a worldwide star and we thought that we were going to have that CM Punk for the next 10 years, it's a different story. But where we're at right now in 2023 with the age CM Punk is, with his track record and how great the Elite are and how important the Elite are to AEW, you got to pick the Elite all day. So if everyone is on the same page and they all want to work together, great, let's do it. But if it comes down to the Elite doesn't want to work with them, I completely support the Elite not wanting to work with it. I totally get that.
Last point on this, and I think a point that maybe people are missing because they hear CM Punk wants to return, they think a lot of money can be made, and they're probably right about that. The Elite are under no obligation to forgive CM Punk if and when and if he has apologized. Like, they are under no obligation to accept that apology based on what we know happened, what we heard happened, and then what's been reported and what we believe to have happened. People don't have to accept apologies just because they think it's going to make them look better or because it's going to make them money in wrestling. You don't have to. If something hurts you that bad, you don't have to accept the apology. Like, it's sure, that's what it is. So
yeah, the Young Bucks are on record of saying this was like the worst few months they've had in their lives. So there's probably a lot behind the scenes that we just don't know about that goes way deeper than just what we know. So yeah, we don't know, and that goes for both sides, by the way. There's stuff that I'm sure Punk has seen and heard that we don't know too. So it's hard to make, but either way, it seems like we're all kind of on the same page about it. If they all want to work together, great, go for it, make money. It'll be a big deal. But You know, if he doesn't come back and people want to like, you know, if people want to get upset about if that's what it comes down to, and CM Punk doesn't come back, and the reason winds up being because Kenny or the Bucks didn't want to work with them, the fans shouldn't attack them over that. Like, they have every right in the world based on what we probably don't even know still publicly, like of why they wouldn't want to work with the guy. So yeah, I get it.
Exactly. And again, if they don't want to work with them, again, that's their right. They're going to get attacked by fans because this is the public game Punk's side is kind of playing with the comments people who are close to Punk are making. So.
Right. And I think that's honestly the biggest, and I'm glad we brought that up. And that was like kind of the main topic of how we talked about this today. Because we can talk about CM Punk and how we feel about that guy. I've made that clear over and over and over again over the years doing these kind of shows. But, you know, the Dax stuff I think is very important to bring up, that they're putting this all into public opinion, which is making things murky too. And it's making people choose even more sides and kind of putting it on Tony Khan and the Elite, to where now all these fans are going, we want him back. He wants to be back. He's saying he wants to be back. Bring him back, bring him back, bring him back. But like the Elite and Kenny are being quiet. And for all we know, they could very easily come out and say something like, hey, this or that happened. And then everyone's like, oh shit, never mind. You know what I mean? Like, because you just don't know. So like,
even if they don't say anything, like from what all of these fans who want Punk back, like they know the story. I don't think there's any misconception of what the story is here. I assume they know the story. So again, like they're under no obligation to forgive, forget, accept any type of apology based on what we know happened just because this man wants to return.
Right. And don't forget, these guys founded this company years ago, took a gigantic risk founding this thing, and invited him on a red carpet to be like their first big signing for this company back in 2019 or whatever. And he held off and held off and held off until they were an established, proven brand. He swooped in and they handed him everything. And he still wasn't satisfied. Being a multiple time world champion, company built around him, old theme music, throwback gear, everything he ever wanted to do in a return to wrestling, Ring of Honor library, everything. And he still wound up in the position we're in right now. I just can't imagine. Like, you do all of that and you're still disgruntled. How's it go when things don't go your way? You know what I mean? So like, anyway, that's my last point that I'll bring up about it.
Jensen, your spotlight for AEW is Sting. Sting came out after Darby Allin had defeated Swerve Strickland, and MJF came out, and Darby and MJF had a little bit of back and forth about MJF is like, I'll die alone, don't care, that's fine by me, after he was missing a family that he didn't have against Bryan Danielson, and Darby being like, look, I'm not gonna, the morality is not worth it for me, like devaluing my morals to get on top and things like that, ain't doing any of that. I'm going to continue to be myself. And they talked about very real promo by Darby Allin. Like it was good to hear. And then Sting came out and Sting made some very truthful points about MJF. Like, hey, you had Cody, buddy. Like, you can say these other guys had people and you had nobody. You had Cody. And he gave shouts out to Kevin Nash and Scott Hall and Ric Flair and Joker Sting and all of this stuff. And he said, like, I know Showtime's just about to end for me, but it's just getting started for Darby Allin. Sting.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't want to put the mask on. It's tough to breathe in this thing.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this promo, Jensen?
Loved it. Thought it was great. I love everything about all this because, you know, I've been saying for a while, really since day one AEW, that I thought Darby Allin was going to eventually be their world champion. He's been one of the most over homegrown guys that they've had this whole time. And I love his pairing with Sting. I love that Darby even said that Sting isn't his dad during that promo. I thought that was really funny. And yeah, it was kind of out of left field that Sting kind of resurfaced almost as the Joker last night, because this whole AEW run, he's been, for the most part, pretty silent and kind of in the background for Darby. And yesterday he came out and just, it was like the old Joker Sting, and he even mentioned that. I thought the promo was great. I love that he brought up that he doesn't have any interest in being the AEW World Champion because that's Darby's mission, and he's there to support Darby, and that Showtime's almost over for him. So his career's, you know, winding up, but Showtime's just beginning for Darby. And they planted the seeds because, I mean, the seeds have been planted since day one in AEW, both those guys being pillars. their opening match at Full Gear a couple years ago is still one of my favorite matches in AEW history between MJF and Darby. And I know that there's more meat on that bone for sure. Like, I don't think Darby's going to win this 4-way match at the pay-per-view with the Pillars. I think MJF will retain here, but I could see Darby being the one to dethrone MJF one-on-one at some point. And I've said that for a little while, that he'd be one of my front runners to do that. So I love the promo. Love that Sting. He roasted MJF up there and put over Darby, and also like made it really clear that he's planted the seeds once again. So the fans are aware that Sting is probably not going to be wrestling too much more. Like, we're getting kind of towards the end of this run here, which I think has been absolutely fantastic for Sting. Awesome run. And it's not even over yet, but even to this point, awesome AEW run. And I love the promo. I loved how MJF reacted to it. Then he just like wound up spitting in Darby's face on the way out. So he got all of his heat back on the way out of there. And I thought this was all done brilliantly. Love Darby's promo parts. Love Sting. I thought MJF played it great. So yeah, everything about this I thought was really good.
Like the pom-poms by Sting, it was should have just kept going. I wish he had even more, just like the clown bit where they just keep pulling the tissue or whatever it is. Just keep coming with the pom-poms, like pockets, boots, just pull them out of everywhere.
Bomber jacket was badass.
Yeah. That was a good promo. I mean, Sting, he's always kind of been a underrated promo, not in the sense that like there's really cutting material from him. Last night, like there kind of was some cutting material, but underrated in just that like he's always had that energy and stuff. And when you think of like good promos, Sting is very rarely mentioned, but he's someone that he's clearly good at promos just because there's always a connection there with him. Like when he speaks, like even if he doesn't like say the most, almost like Cody in that, like, even if the material isn't always the best, like there is such a tone to his promos and he understands who he is so much that you're like, all right, fuck it. Like maybe that didn't make a whole lot of sense, but you know what? I'm ready to run through a wall for this guy. And last night there was certainly more cutting material because he played off a lot of the history. He had a lot to say when it came to cutting down MJF, putting over Darby Allin and everything. But yeah, Sting, really great promo. I think if they wanted to, Wembley is a good retirement ceremony for him. It's not like Sting's going to be wrestling a ton of matches or anything. I'd like to see him go out in a big stadium like that be the final kind of time for him. We'll see what happens if that's how they decide to go with Sting. I think we all know, I think he did an interview with somebody. And he mentioned like, this is like kind of the final year of his deal and he's probably going to be sort of done after all of that. So I wouldn't be shocked if this is Sting's final year. He has a final match at some point. I could see it being Wembley. Like, what better way to go and in front of the biggest AEW show of all time? I don't think Darby's going to win the title at the pay-per-view. It makes sense for him to be the one to dethrone MJF at some point. I don't know if it's going to be an elimination match at the pay-per-view. If it's a single fall, Sammy Guevara can take that fall. Jungle Boy can take that fall. I think Sammy makes the most sense because then you still have singles matches with Jungle Boy, MJF, and Darby. MJF is a face-heel dynamic. We'll see if they decide to maybe go with Darby. But regardless, great promo from Sting, and Sting should throw an MJF. That's who should.
I joked about that last night. I saw your wife put that up on Twitter as well, which I thought was great. I was watching with my brother and my buddy Hughes. When Sting was out there, I jokingly said that I was like, "Oh, they should just impromptu match right now. Sting just wins the title right now from MJF." Yeah, just do it.
All right, let's move on to our other spotlight, Jensen.
Our product is what it is. We're going straight up the middle.
SANADA is the new IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. He finally did it. He finally defeated Kazuchika Okada in a really good match, and I'm glad they finally went with SANADA on this. I've been banging that drum for years. I thought they missed the opportunity a few years ago with him after he won the New Japan Cup to win the title there, and they didn't go with it, but they went with it here. They went with SANADA. Very happy that he ended up getting this victory, and I love the stable of just 5 guys. The talent is what they are on there, but I love just the name of just 5 guys, and it's something new. It's something fresh. It doesn't feel like a miss like when Evil won the title. That felt like, oh no, what are we doing? What are we doing here with Evil? That I never thought had a chance from the very start, and it certainly it didn't work out too well. And then here, they went with them, and I'm very glad that they went with SANADA.
For sure. One of the big tie in there, of course, is like when they went with Evil, that was coming off of the longtime tag team with SANADA, where most people thought that SANADA should have been the one to get the title then. So when they went with Evil, it was even more confusing because it was like, wait, if you were just going to go with one of those guys, just go with SANADA. Like, no one wants to see Evil with the championship. That whole thing was a disaster. That was the worst IWGP title run I've like ever seen of anything. But with Evil, yeah, I mean, I'm happy for SANADA because it's been a long time coming. The only kind of knock I'd give on something like this, and it's not really, I don't follow the New Japan product closely enough, like year round, to even really speak on this. But it does feel like they wait a little too long for some people, or sometimes way too long to actually just pull the trigger. Like I remember people having a demand for SANADA to do this like 4 years ago.
2019, like he faced Okada in the finals of the New Japan Cup, and I think I misspoke earlier, my fault. But he faced Okada in the finals of the New Japan Cup. I thought he should have won that and then gone on to win the title. He felt very red hot at the time, and I thought that should have been the time that he ended up finally getting the victory over Okada, and then it didn't happen, and then he kind of toiled for a little bit. Again, they went with Evil a year later, and SANADA was just kind of there, and now they finally go with him, and it's good to see. He had to overcome the adversity, I guess.
Yeah, I guess just a long time of adversity.
4 year of adversity for SANADA.
Well, and then like the whole career up to that point to like even get that over. I mean, he's been around a long time. I remember SANADA back in TNA like forever ago, as like when he was on his excursion. But yeah, I'm happy for SANADA. I'm glad, and it was good he got the win over Okada. Like that really cements him and like puts a stamp on it. Like he didn't just beat anybody; he beat arguably the best champion they've ever had in Okada to win the belt. So I thought that was my spotlight today, really just to shout out SANADA and be able to say like he actually did it. It's been a long time coming. He's got a lot of talent. He has for a long time, and this should have happened year after year after year, but they finally went with him, which is. It's really good to see, and I'm sure there's a lot of longtime New Japan fans that are really happy to see him get rewarded finally for this. So,
for sure, yeah, and it is good to see. And there's already built-in stories. He's going to face Hiromu at the next event. I imagine they're going to run him and Tetsuya Naito here very shortly. That's an easy match to sell. They got the G1 coming up in a few months in the summer, so I think SANADA. I don't think he'll make it to Wrestle Kingdom as the champion. I think he'll lose before then, but he should enjoy a nice few months of being the champion. Again, you got the Hiromu match, you got the Naito match, you got the G1, and then he'll probably lose it after the G1 would be my guess on things. But still, good to see SANADA get his moment. Jensen, my other spotlight is a guy who won the title a couple weeks ago during WrestleMania week, but we had a lot to talk about over the past week with Cody and everything, but Katsuyori Shibata, sorry, can you say it? Won the ROH Peer title at Supercard of Honor, defeating Wheeler Yuta. He's defended against Christopher Daniels. He's just teaming with Alex Coughlin on Honor Club. Shibata is just like wrestling normally in the United States when it looked like this man was never going to wrestle again a few years ago after he had to retire and they had to remove his brain during operation. Like, it's kind of crazy to just see him here's Shabata just doing an ROH run, winning the ROH Peer title.
It is strange how this has worked out. You're very right. Because like even when he came back and wrestled Orange Cassidy and stuff, it was awesome, but it was just seemed just so random. Because for people who don't know, kind of what Jeremy's alluding to, back when Shabata had these like bad brain injuries and he had to retire, he was on the trajectory of probably being one of the next guys up to be the IWGP heavyweight champion. And he was like in some major feuds at that time. And he had some bangers with guys like Tomohiro Ishii and like a lot of like the upper card guys at the time too. And it really seemed like he was about to really break through and be like, I say break through. He's been around for a very long time, but it felt like they were going to finally like kind of go all the way with him back then around the time he got hurt. And the fact that he's back, but it's in Ring of Honor, it's it's just strange. Like, it's awesome though. It's worked out great for him, and the pure title thing is perfect for him. So like, but it is strange because you would think that if he was coming back, that like New Japan would have dibs on him and he'd be doing like this big New Japan return and stuff. But instead, we're just getting kind of like this random ROH run. But I'm here for it. I mean, good for Shibata. He's one of my favorite talents ever out of New Japan. And I love that he still just rocks like the black trunks, black boots, and just like lets all his wrestling. He's the wrestler, like his wrestling, does all the talking for him, and he's fantastic at what he does. So yeah, huge shout out to Shibata.
He said that at the ROH press conference that like the crowd in Japan, because they're still kind of limited, like he doesn't want to like fully do all of that. I don't know if that's the full reason of things, because I know they've been welcoming back crowds and they're still running some big shows over there that it feels like he could be part of. But that's the strange part to me, is like, yeah, he's not just doing like one-off special matches in New Japan, which it seemed like would be right up, like they set up the Kenta thing a few years ago. It's like, oh, is Shibata going to return? And then he didn't return. And then he did the exhibition match with Zack Sabre Jr. and whatnot. And yeah, it just seemed like, we'd have these big matches in Japan. It's like, no, you're just going to wrestle in ROH taping in Rhode Island, just team with Coughlin. And, he's been part of the New Japan Strong Dojo and all that stuff and teaching these guys. So I know he wants to like give back and things like that. It just seems so random that he is a legend in the sport, and he came back from something that's very serious. No one thought he was going to wrestle again. You're just like, yeah, I'm just going to work the Largo loop here for ROH. Like, sure, Shabata, whatever you want to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, watch ROH. Kate was on earlier. Her and Righteous Reg, they do the ROH review show. Watch that, everybody. All right, here we go. Indie Spotlight.
I'm going to give a big motherfucking shout out.
Big shout out to our boss, Sean Ross Sapp, who beat up Shazza McKenzie. That's it. Shazza McKenzie. I can't wait to see Shazza McKenzie kick his ass.
That's the spotlight. For those of you who missed it, there is video that has surfaced of Sean Ross Sapp attacking Shazza McKenzie at what was the technical name?
Black
of the
Label
show?
Pro.
Was it a Black Label Pro show?
Yeah.
But it was not like an expo. It was like a but I had at a BLP show. Shout out Mikey Blanton and those guys over there. They have a great product.
Until now.
What's that?
I said until now.
Until now. But yeah, I saw some polarizing opinions on the Sean thing. I thought it was pretty entertaining seeing all the discourse around that. I know there's something that he was really looking like he was nervous about. I could see him like tweeting about it leading up to it. The pop from the crowd is probably what he was dreading, and that's was part of this whole story. He had a really nice impaler DDT. I'll say that, really nice impaler DDT. It was one of my favorite moves in wrestling. And he nailed that. I'm not really sure what the setup was. He just like opened his jacket and then
he said that he was showing her like a Fightful shirt.
Okay, so because the camera you can't see that, so that would actually make a lot more sense, because what I think most people was like, why didn't he just like kick her or something? Because he like grabs her by the head, but the move was executed perfectly. So like I'm going to give credit where it's due. The move was done perfectly. That's one of my biggest fears, is like, because I've been offered to do some like little things here and there, like in the ring locally as well. Like I'm not trained, but just like to be a part of the show, and I've turned everything down like, outside of commentary because I'm terrified that like something would happen to me where I would reveal myself and no one would pop, and I'd just be standing there like, oh no, like that's a real big fear of mine. So Sean has some serious balls to even get back in the ring to begin with, to be honest, especially because he has a lot on the line, being the number one wrestling journalist guy in the world. Like if you like, your job is to critique pro wrestling, so everyone's going to critique the hell out of you when you get involved. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like you got big balls to even put himself out there like that. And I think it's badass, dude. Like, I mean, the pop joke was funny because I know Sean leaned into that too. He was having people like edit like the Road Warrior pop into the video and stuff. And it's cool that he's working with Shazza because she's a great talent. I know that they're friends. So like, shout out to Sean. Like, with all jokes aside about like the kind of the things that might not have gone great about that, he's got balls to even put himself in a situation like that, given who he is like in this space. So yeah, shout out to Sean.
Jokes and bits aside, I'm very happy and very proud of my friend Sean Ross Sapp for doing this, and he made it look good. Like the DDT was good. I don't know if they're setting up some type of match. I feel like they're gonna do something. I don't think this is just like hey, let's come in and beat up Shazza, and then that's it. We're never going to do anything after this. It feels like there's more at play here.
Well, that's very much a Black Label Pro type booking match too. Like I could see BLP definitely running that match. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like there's a little bit more at play. Don't know, but we shall see down the line. Shazza's great. She's a good wrestler and very fun, very engaging on social media, things like that. Just seems like I've interviewed her before, and one of the nicest people I've ever talked to. So Shazza is fantastic, and I'm proud of Sean. Jokes aside, bits aside, we are friends despite what I say about him on the show often, and I know that this meant a lot to him, and like he did a great job. And I wish he would ignore all of these idiots who are just going to complain about something to complain about something. Because at the end of the day, look, we do this to do, I've said it before, do dumb shit with our friends, right? Like we just want to have fun. It's pro wrestling. For the most part, not the most serious thing in the world. Like it's really not. And Sean is out there doing dope shit with his friends. And that's all we really want to do. So I'm proud of him. I'm very happy for him. And he still sucks. You should still read the chat and not tell me to do stuff I've already done 2 days ago. All right. The other indie spotlight, Nick Wayne versus Swerve Strickland from Defy the Realist. That's actually going to air tonight. That video comes out tonight. So maybe by the time you're listening to this, everyone go check out that match. The big story coming out of that though is Nick Wayne won. He won the Defy World Championship. And then in his first AEW match was booked for July, a couple days after his 18th birthday, when he can officially wrestle for AEW. He's going to wrestle Swerve Strickland in his first AEW match. Jensen, I know you're excited about it. We've been big fans of Nick Wayne, and he's getting Swerve in his first match. You know that's going to be a great match. Yeah, I mean, and they're both from the same area out there on the West Coast. They're both really linked to Defy Wrestling. Swerve really made a big name for himself out there over years. And Nick Wayne's been one of their top guys for a while now, too. I mean, Nick's still only 17, 18, or about to be 18, whatever he's like right at right now. But he's a young veteran already. He's been around for years. Super talented. We've talked about Nick Wayne plenty of times on here on this show. I talk about him almost every weekend on the Weekender over on Fightful Select. But it's badass that they're going to have a Defy title match on AEW television. I don't think it's for the Defy title. I don't think it's for the title. Well, regardless, the fact that that's even happening on national television, like that's a really, really cool title or not. Like that's a really badass way to introduce Nick Wayne, because we've seen him on AEW TV, but it's really been more of like a guy in the crowd type of thing. Like, he's going to be a big deal. I think he's wrestled some like dark matches and stuff for them, but not like AEW dark, but like before they actually air. I don't think they've aired any of his actual wrestling yet. No. And then also just because I gotta log into the shoot job here in just a second. This is a good tie-in, but I also wanted to give a congratulations to Billy Starks, of course, because she's in a similar situation to what Nick Wayne is in, where Nick, signed to AEW. He's been signed for a while, and he's going to be making his debut soon. Tony Schiavone recently mentioned that Billy Starks is signed to AEW, and that's great for her. I know I've said for years that I think Billy Starks and Nick Wayne are going to be the two biggest stars in all of wrestling, and it'll happen sooner rather than later. It'll happen like in their early 20s, and because they're both 18 or whatever. Billy are already there. That match against Jade was it's great. Maybe Jade's best match. I agree. I already think that Billy's one of the best like independent wrestlers in the world, just like regardless, and she's going to be one of the best mainstream wrestlers very soon. We'll just so it's the match with Jade was awesome. One of Jade's best matches. It's exciting. It's exciting to know that not only are these kids signing with these companies so young, but like there's plans for them. Like, you're not going to sit there and just not do anything with them. Like, the talent's there. Go with them. And a big part of when you sign people like this, and I said it a lot with Marco Stunt. I said it a lot with Conan. Actually, talked about with Rey Mysterio during his Hall of Fame speech. I've said this a lot. If you can get people that can connect with kids, like if a kid sees Billy Starks and he's like, he's in high school. Like, a kid sees Nick Wayne, he's in high school. Like,
a kid sees Rey Mysterio, like you got a mask on, like he thinks it's a little kid. You see someone like Marco Stunt, like you think it's a little kid. An elementary school kid can see Marco Stunt and actually think like, because look at my friend wrestling people on TV. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, I think there's a lot of opportunity there for like marketing, for big pushes. And I think that like Billy Starks and Nick Wayne are going to be just massive stars. And it's going to happen really fast because I don't think they're going to sit there and wait. Like they're going to, like the talent's there, just push them now. So yeah, awesome to see.
I very much look forward to Nick Wayne and Swerve in AEW, and I look forward to watching the Defy the Realist and seeing how that match plays out. It looked like it was a bloody affair as well. And Swerve was great last night against Darby, and he's an absolute star. I kind of wish they do. I'm glad he's with Mogul Embassy now. He's no longer with the other two, which didn't seem to always fit. So I really like that. Jensen, I know you got to run. Go ahead and plug everything you got to plug.
Yes, make sure to follow me on Twitter at @FightTalk_. Use code FightTalk on IWTV and subscribe to FightfulSelect.com. New Weekender podcast. That'll be dropping on Sunday, talking the world of independent wrestling. Got a lot of spoilers and stuff to talk about that I didn't talk about last week because the collective review is up. So if you want to listen to the collective review, I break down every show from the collective, and also had Caden on to give me their experience being live at the collective as well. So check that out over at FightfulSelect.com. Good to see everyone in the chat today. Good to see you, Jeremy. And I'm going to go log into the shoot job. You guys have a good one. Enjoy this interview from Tom Talks Rubbish.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Jensen. Appreciate it as always. Enjoy the rest of your day. All right, everybody. We are going to get into our interview with Tom Talks Rubbish. You can go to his YouTube channel. Check out the link in the description below. Just click on that. Go support Tom. He does great work. Does a lot of interviews with a lot of wrestling media personalities. I've been on there before. Stephen Jensen's been on them before. Sean Ross Sapp is going to be on there today or tomorrow. I believe it's tomorrow is when that interview drops. So Tom is a great dude. One of the most positive people you'll find in this space. And that counts for a lot as well. One of the nicest people you'll find in this space as well. So big shout out to Tom for him doing this interview. And let's waste no more time. In the Creator Spotlight, it is Tom Talks Rubbish. Welcome back, everyone, to the Creator Spotlight here on the Spotlight. I'm still Jeremy Lambert. That is still Stephen Jensen. And today we are joined from Tom Talks Rubbish. It is the man himself, Tom Talks Rubbish. Tom, how you doing, buddy?
I'm really excited to be here, guys. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. And we'll just go ahead and get started with the first question here. And that is, how did you get started when it comes to interviewing wrestling media personalities on your channel?
So to go back a little bit further, my channel sort of started during the lockdown period of the pandemic, right? So I basically talking rubbish. Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
for sure.
And then, sorry.
No, go ahead.
And then basically, I started by interviewing people in my life that were affected by the pandemic, like carers, doctors, etc. And then one night, I basically stuck up this video being like, if the universe worked out, these are 10 people that it'd be very cool to interview. And Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic saw it somehow. And at that time, I wasn't very good with Zoom or anything like that. So he basically told me, look, if you want to do it, I will do the Zoom call for you, like set it all up, help you, etc. And I'll edit it for you. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Because this was a hero of mine at the time. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
For
yeah.
Sure.
And I know that you have regrets about that interview, I know, because I know you felt like you were a fanboy about that. You want to elaborate about that a little bit? I thought that was interesting because I've heard you talk about that before.
So, yeah, you are 100% correct. I talked over him a lot during that interview. I was basically asking fanboy questions, and that interview didn't really have any structure. Do you know what I mean?
Right. And you said you wish you'd had more time to prepare, which I understand that too. Like when I first started interviewing people years back, I was the same kind of way where I was just really excited to be able to talk to people I was interested in, but I maybe didn't do the best job preparing. So I thought it was interesting how you talked about that.
you talked about that, and that's interesting because the night Adam sent me the DM, he gave me 2 opportunities to do the interview, if that makes sense. He gave me the night. Why am I not in focus?
No, you're good. The connection is actually great. Yeah, we hear you loud and clear. So
I'm just not in the box for whatever reason. Which is, but anyway, he gave me 2 nights that he could have done, which is like the night I put the video up or a couple of days later. And in hindsight, I wish I'd gone, I'm going to take the couple of days later to do some research. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. It was that because you felt it was a big opportunity though. So it was like he said he's free. Like let's do it. It's kind of the approach that you took. That's how I did it at first myself as well. So.
So can you repeat that? Sorry, my connection.
Oh sure. Yeah. So basically, you think that you instead of waiting a couple of days, did you do it because it was like, listen, he said he could do this day. He said he's gonna do it. I just want to do it. Like so it was. You feel like you rushed it, but like I felt I was the same way when I first started getting interviews. It was almost like I didn't want like the opportunity to pass. So it was like, you said you could do it this day, I'm going to do it this day.
Exactly that, Stephen. You've hit nail on the head there.
So when it comes to your preparation style now, like what all goes into, okay, I know I'm interviewing this person. What do you do to prepare for these interviews now?
For example, an interview that I recorded this past week that will go out in a few months is with Larson from Going in Raw. So I will watch a lot of their live streams. I will watch previous interviews that they've done to hopefully not repeat the questions and stuff like that. And I'm really interested in how did content creators become a fan of the content they're creating. So I will look up their fandom, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, for sure. Who are some people that you might study when it comes to the interviews? Because you interview a lot of interviewers, but who, if you're not interviewing somebody, who is people that you might like to study of like, I like their style of interview?
I feel like everyone says this answer, and I don't just want to say it just because I'm on Fightful, but I love Sean's style of interviewing.
He's terrible.
He's great, man. I love Chris Van Vliet's style of interviewing. I love someone called, he's actually a buddy of mine, Jacob Kelly. He runs something called the My Social Life podcast, where basically he will talk to creators about how to grow on social media and stuff like that. I love his interview style, so I'll study him and just people like that, really.
Yeah, that's a good list. That's a good list of people.
You guys, if I know a guest has done the Spotlight interview, I will find that.
Don't study us. Yeah, don't do that.
You put us over. That's fine. I'll accept that praise. I know also. So you as a wrestling fan, I thought it was interesting to find out that you got into, unless I am mistaken, you got into wrestling. It was WrestleMania 22, and it was mainly the Edge versus Mick Foley street fight that sucked you in as a fan, and you credit that really for like making you a fan right off the bat. What are your thoughts? I guess kind of let people know about kind of that experience, because I've seen your video about you explaining this, but for people who may not have seen that, and then also what's it like watching Edge in like real time? Like, did he still active and you watching as recently as WrestleMania?
So I was a fan when Edge was wrestling, so that match still means a lot to me. Do you know what I mean? But to see him come back now, it's like, we never thought this was going to happen. So it's like, it's almost like the way I'll describe it is, it'd be like for football fans, it'd be like for basketball fans, I suppose, if LeBron could go up against Michael Jordan. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
We're starting to see all the dream matches and stuff that he never got. So that's really cool. And I'm sorry, but can you repeat the beginning of that question, Stephen?
Yeah, just to elaborate for people who might not know just about, because like, I could explain myself a little bit based on what I know about you. From my understanding, you started renting, or essentially you had like a Blockbuster a video rental store where you were living at the time. And that's where you started becoming a fan of that. So you started by renting, I'm assuming DVDs because of the time. So it'd be DVDs that you were renting of WrestleMania 22. I say this because I got hooked big time because of VHS tapes, like because I'm, me and Jeremy are older. But is that accurate? It was you had a Blockbuster where you lived, and that's kind of what started it all.
So it wasn't where I lived. I spent a lot of time in the hospital when I was a kid. So we had a Blockbuster in the hospital.
Right.
I would basically get the tapes and take them back to my room. And there were a few VHSs, actually, just to correct you. I said this on another interview I did recently with the Between Two Beards crew of Love Wrestling. I was like, I think my generation is the generation where VHS died. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do remember VHS, but it's not like I remember it amazingly, if that makes sense. So I still had a few. And yeah, I would just get... I definitely didn't watch pay-per-views in chronological order or things like that. I'd just get, they've got WrestleMania 24 in order. They've got WrestleMania 19. They've got Survivor Series 2001. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. I was the same. Right. I was the same kind of way with the VHS tapes so I was able to watch, WCW and stuff in like the mid 90s when I was watching it, but to find out what was happening before that, and also to keep up with the pay-per-views, because I couldn't watch pay-per-view either. It was just kind of whatever you got, whenever you got it. You just kind of had to piece together when each thing was happening, kind of in hindsight. And then also, then you had like a gap where you couldn't watch Monday Night Wrestling, right? And then you came back into it in like around 2010, 2011, and you've been like all in since then, really, it seems like.
So yeah, about 2011, 2012, I went for my medical needs, I went to a school that the way I'll describe it, it was boarding school, but you weren't there like 24 hours a day. You were there 2 days a week to basically give your parents a break from your medical needs and to give you some independent living skills. And there was this guy on what was known as the independent flat called Brandon, and he basically had a WrestleMania in his bag because we could bring DVDs. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. So you couldn't watch like cable? Is that accurate? Like you didn't have television you could watch, but you had DVDs that you could bring?
So that's partially accurate because Brandon had an iPad, and we would watch Sky Sports at the time because that's what aired WWE. We would watch so we would go to residential on the Saturday, right? No, sorry, on the Wednesday, and we would catch up with the previous Monday Night Raw, etc.
I see. Okay.
So now, following wrestling now, who are some of your favorites now that you like to keep up with?
Bro, this is going to make me sound like an AEW fanboy, but it is AEW exclusively because in the UK, that's the thing I have the most access to. You know what I mean? It's just a lot easier to watch than, say, WWE. Because WWE is still on cable and AEW is on an app, if that makes sense.
Right. I know AEW is very accessible over there, and they do a bigger number than WWE for a lot of that stuff. So as far as AEW, who are some of your favorites when it comes to individual wrestlers?
Bryan Danielson, MJF.
The GOAT.
The GOAT. Yeah. I love Bryan Danielson. MJF. I love Darby. I love this 4 pillars storyline. I'll say that. I'm loving this. Jericho. Like, I feel like I'm just going to list the AEW roster.
That's cool. That's great. A lot of great
Cody,
names.
But I do love people in WWE. Like, I love Roman. I love Cody. I love people like that. And I'm just a wrestling fan. So I'm one of those people that's like, send me this clip. I think this is cool. People will send me stuff, and it's like, I'm not loyal to one company, but that doesn't mean I hate another company. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely. And that's a kind of a good segue to ask this question. Very important and very relevant and topical. What are your thoughts on Cody Rhodes losing in the WrestleMania main event and then getting beat down by Brock Lesnar? Or should he have just won the title at WrestleMania?
I'd have been fine if he won the title, but then got beat down by Brock. I was like,
yeah.
I didn't see the point in Cody losing. I just didn't get that. Because it's like, Roman, I get they want him to break Is it Bruno's record? You guys will know better
It'll,
than me.
it'll never break Bruno's record.
Yeah.
It would take till like 2030 to break Bruno's record. But
Yeah.
but no, they want to break 1,000 days. That seems like the big thing.
Exactly. I get they
Yeah.
want him to do that, but it's like, especially the way he won, which was basically the same as his Clash at the Castle victory. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Exactly the same. It's like Roman's developed into a formula now, and it's like, I'm bored. And I'm going to be totally honest with you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely know what you mean, Tom. I agree 1,000%.
You're preaching to the choir when it comes to Stephen Jensen there,
Yeah,
and Cody
absolutely.
Rhodes should have won.
He should have won. Like I said, I was fine. If they did everything that they did, just Cody won at WrestleMania, then Brock beats him up, that's a completely different thing. Now we're I know you laid it out, man. That's exactly so yeah, good answer, Tom. I think that was actually a great answer to that question.
Who do you think should be the one to defeat Roman Reigns then, Tom?
Cody. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
right?
It should have been Cody. I will never say anyone else because it should have been Cody. The story was there, and I'm going to get very frustrated now.
I think that there's a chance because I saw so this will be coming out on Thursday. So by the time that this airs, Cody will have already talked on Raw. So this will either be me predicting the future or totally wrong. But if that dude comes out there and says the next time he challenges for the title, if he doesn't win, he can never challenge for the title again, and it's like the same thing.
Please don't do that.
Yeah,
please.
No, I know. I'm so scared. Anyways.
Yourself into a corner in AEW doing that. Please don't do that.
Yes, agreed. What was your favorite match from WrestleMania this year?
This is going to sound again like an obvious answer, but Gunther versus Sheamus and Drew McIntyre.
Great
Hands
match.
down.
Yeah, great match.
It was a fantastic match. Tom, are you excited? I know you were looking to potentially go to Wembley Stadium. So two-part question here for the AEW show. One, are you excited to potentially go there? And two, like, have you been to a live wrestling event? What was your experience like there?
So I've been to my local wrestling. Like I'm going to try and do this, but I'm wearing a WrestleForce t-shirt, which is basically my local promotion, if that makes sense. So I've been to a lot of local wrestling, and I really want to. I've put this on Twitter so many times, but I'm like, one way or another, I'm going to be at that Wembley Stadium show. And also, one way or another, I want to be in Philly next year. I had a lot of FOMO this year, especially because I've become more involved in the wrestling media. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, that would be a heck of a trip for you to come out here to Philly. That'd be awesome. That'd be a lot of fun. I'm really glad I didn't go all the way out to California to be disappointed. That would have been really rough with the Cody thing. But so a question about just speaking of like interviewing people and that kind of stuff and being kind of more part of wrestling media. What's it been like working with Cassidy Haynes over there at Body Slam?
Oh, Cassidy Haynes is the boy. Like, Cassidy is not only an amazing content creator, but he's one of my closest friends. I'll say that. In wrestling media, he is one of my closest friends. Even if we don't talk about wrestling media every day, we talk just a "you okay, bud?" text. Do you know what I mean?
That's good. He's a good guy. I roomed with Cass during the weekend of Jimmy's wedding, so we're good people.
Cass is one of the best people, and I want to be mean to him because that's the bit. But speaking honestly, yes, Cass is absolutely with the absolute best of us in wrestling media. And if we could all be more like Cass, his place would be a lot better.
I agree. And I always feel quite honored to work with Cass because at the end of the day, I just did what I was doing, which was an interview with him. I'm going to tell the story of how WrestleWatch came about, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Basically, I just did an interview with him, and I then said to him, I then got a DM the day the interview went live or a couple of days later. Sorry, Cass, if I'm misremembering. Love you, buddy. But, like, he basically sent me a DM being like, try and pitch a show for Body Slam because I'd love to work with you more. And I'm like, what? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and then so, how did the Wrestle Watch come along? Obviously, that was the show you pitched, but did you have other ideas, and why did you settle on Wrestle Watch?
No, I didn't have any other ideas at that time, Jeremy. And it was basically, I don't have any friends to watch wrestling with.
Relatable. That's by the way, a lot of people that are watching this that are in the chat right now. We all know how that feels. It's a very relatable sentiment not having friends to watch wrestling with. So it is cool, and that's a big part of like why I like doing these kind of shows, and why I think a lot of people get into like talking about wrestling, whether it's like wrestling media or just like reviewing stuff or YouTube or Twitch or whatever. It's like just so you have other wrestling fans to talk to, like for real, versus like even Twitter is weird because stuff gets so lost in translation and the tone and stuff. Like you only have so many words you can text, So no, that's cool. That's cool that you had that, and then that you got to do it with a guy like Cass over there at Body Slam. That's good stuff.
I will say this because the podcast has been on hiatus for a little while, just due to my personal life and Cass's personal life, because I don't know how much he wants me to say. But I'm sure you guys know how it is when you try and do a podcast with Sean. Where Cass runs the site, it's like, it's hard to pin each other down. Do you know what I mean? Especially with the time difference.
Yeah, absolutely. That time difference is brutal.
Cass doesn't sleep. Cass
that's
doesn't
true.
Sleep at all.
Cass doesn't sleep. That is
no,
true.
That's true. But this is the thing with my medical needs. We were starting to do the podcast sometimes at like midnight my time, and it's like this was towards. I haven't told this story before, so you guys are getting a bit of an exclusive. This was towards sort of, I don't want to say a bad period in my YouTube channel, but like the period where I was obsessed with getting 100 interviews, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do 100 interviews in a year, and that was it. Whether they were good interviews, bad interviews, something in between. I just wanted to say I did 100 interviews in a year. Looking back, not the best strategy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Did you feel like you were trying to like force it?
Yeah, I was trying to force it, and I would do an interview, and then they'd go up the day of, which was killing me. Because I used to have this thing in my head, right, where it was like, this has got to be edited before I go to bed. So I'd record with the person at like 9, 10 o'clock my time, and then be up till 3 a.m. editing. And sorry, Jeremy.
I was going to say, and the editing, I mean, what a lot of people don't know is that takes more time than the interview, because the interview just goes by, and the editing is like, all right, I got to insert this here. I got to mess with this here. Like, that's the time consuming part of a lot of this.
And then I just sort of had this moment where I was like, this isn't healthy. And it was actually my girlfriend that was like, we haven't done a FaceTime call in over 4 months at that time, I think. Like, we used to FaceTime in the evenings. Do you know what I mean? Because we don't live together.
Right.
And she was like, we haven't done one for like 4 months. And that's because I was doing interviews every evening and then editing straight away. And I was like, you know what? You're right. Why am I doing it like this? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Too much stress for like, there's a balance there between being like ambitious and wanting to like do good work, but also like burning out and like, there's definitely like a line there that I feel like I understand what you're saying, but like putting yourself into a quarter almost of like, I have to do this, when in reality, like, you actually don't have to do this. Like you like, it's going to be okay if you don't, like, just keep having fun with it. You know, is that kind of what it was like?
100%. And that was the reason the podcast went on hiatus, was also that. And then a couple of things in our personal lives where it was like, me and Cash just need to find a time that works for both of us. And we're slowly coming around to that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Another guy I wanted to ask you about real quick before I forget is Anthony. I can't remember. I think he introduced me to you or vice versa. I've known you guys for about the same amount of time, but Anthony from Anthony Talk.
What? Oh, the boy. I love that guy.
Yeah. He's what a great guy, honestly. I mean, I've been on his show multiple times. Another one where it's tough with the time difference, but if you'd like to talk about Anthony a little bit, give him a little bit of a shout out, because I know that you guys have a relationship as well.
So again, Anthony is another guy that has the same medical needs as me. Cerebral palsy, I don't know if you guys know what that is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about it, like feel free. Like if you know.
Basically, my legs work, but like they don't. I'm not. The way I'll describe it is my legs are constantly numb, and like I'm in a wheelchair. I can walk a bit. I can not. So anyway, back to the original thing. Anthony saw my Adam Pacitti interview and was like, "If you want to have me on your channel, I'll do what Adam did for you." I was like, "Yeah, cool, man." And ever since then, me and him have just had a relationship very similar to my cast relationship, which is we check in every day. It's like, "Are you doing okay, dude?" And do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So what do you like to do when you mentioned trying to do 100 interviews? And the thing with this job is it's so much content creation and it's very easy to get burnt out. And if you're not having fun with this stuff, then it just becomes a job, and that's no fun because it's covering wrestling, right? Like it's talking to friends about wrestling, things like that. Like it's supposed to be fun. So like when you feel you're reaching that point, what are some things you like to do?
If I did this to you guys, you'll know what I'm saying, right? I love my boxing. I don't know if you guys have seen my videos.
I have, absolutely.
Yes, yeah.
I appreciate you when you tag me in those too, by the way. It's motivating. Yeah, absolutely.
So one of my carers is an absolute guy. His name is Neil. If he watches this, big love to you, Neil. Like, and he basically started to treat me that like, you don't have to hang out with your friends all the time. We can go do cool things like boxing and stuff. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, we go to this, I say this with love, if anyone from my boxing crew is watching this, but like, it's a rundown gym, but it's in the best possible way. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because it's like, you know how when you go to a normal gym, you can't really smell anyone sweating unless you're really close to them?
Right.
Yeah.
If you go into this one, it's like, yeah, we're in the right place because it smells like it's like, because they haven't, it's like an old school gym. It's like we've had to stop buying our own equipment because everything's ripped and stuff. And like, you can tell people have been busting their humps, if you know what I mean. So boxing's my main outlet. My little part-time job is my main outlet at the cinema.
What do you do at the cinema?
So basically, I'm the guy, I don't know how it works in the States, but before you go in, you have to give your tickets to someone so they can check the date, they can ID you, and stuff like that. I'm that guy.
Sure.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we have those people in the States.
Have you guys been busy for the Mario movie?
Yep. So today, at time of recording, right? I worked today, and in total, and I also worked Wednesday. We had, in total, my boss told me this, we've had 750 people since the Mario movie came out on Wednesday.
Wow.
It's a big hit. Have you seen it?
Nope, but I'm going Monday, so no spoilies, please.
Yeah, no spoilers either for me. Yeah, I'm going not this week, but next week. I have like Monday the 24th off of work. That's like a big weekend. Where I got GCW on Friday, Battle Slam on Sunday, and I'm just gonna take that day off Monday to go see the Mario movie. So looking forward to that.
Because part of an employee perk, I suppose, is we get to go in for nothing. Like,
yes, nice.
We just have to flash a card and be like, dude, can you give me a ticket, please? Do you know what I mean?
Yes. What about popcorn and stuff? Any deal skis there?
There's one thing I will say. Shout out to anyone from my cinema after watching this. It's got so expensive, the concessions, right? The popcorn and stuff, that you go to somewhere else, right? Before you go in there. Everyone does it. Like, we say this, but we get like 40% off.
Okay.
That's not bad.
Me and my sister have both said, we're going to go watch it, because she's already seen it, but she's like, yeah, I want to see it again. Let's go.
Oh, nice. How old is she?
She's 18, and I'm 24, so...
Cool.
She's just slowly started... So, the way I phrased it to her was, I remember Mario, she sort of remembers. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then we and Jeremy were playing it on, the Super Nintendo, so... I mean...
I had that.
And then the N64. Yes,
Shout out to my stepdad, who's in the other room. That was like the first thing he ever gave me was his Nintendo 64.
Nice.
Yes.
And I
Still
played
one of
that. I loved that, by the way.
Yeah, still one of my favorite games of all time, Super Mario 64. Still
I
totally
agree.
holds up.
I agree.
You can play those games on like the Switch now. They have like the old
The
like retro thing on the Switch. Yeah.
I've still got a working N64 like in my living room. Like I can just play Super Mario 64 right now on the old setup. So
there you go.
I haven't played it for ages, but I want to play it again before Monday if I can.
Yes. Yes.
You guys will enjoy the movie. No spoilers. I'll just say you guys will enjoy the movie.
I'm very excited because that's one thing that's cool about the cinema. You do get a gauge of when people come out the film. You do get a gauge of that was terrible. That was really, you know, and we've seen nothing but smiling faces when people have come out.
Good. Yeah, my kids really enjoyed it when we went to go see it the other day. So you guys will have a good time with it. Tom, who are some of the people that you would like to interview that you've not interviewed yet?
So this is sort of going to lead to the reason that I asked to be on here right now when we was discussing it. I'm sure Stephen knows because we've discussed it, and I'm sure Jeremy knows, right?
I'm not told anything. Nobody tells me anything around here.
What interview's going up this week is an interview with the great man that is Sean Ross Sapp.
Yep, it's going to be coming out. Like, you're going to hear this interview on Thursday, and then it comes out on, the 15th, yours?
The 14th.
The 14th.
So Friday.
Okay, so literally the day after. So tomorrow, if you guys see this, tomorrow, you can watch this interview Tom's talking about.
Mm-hmm. So that was a big bucket list one, and that was one that I never thought was going to happen because big love to Sean because he's always been very good to me with the boxing, with any time I've done work with you guys. Like, he's been nothing but cool. Do you know what I mean? But he, for whatever reason, you guys might know the reason. I don't, and that's cool. I like it to remain a mystery. He put a tweet out a few months ago just being like, until further notice, I'm not doing any shows unless it's Fightful, right?
Yeah.
So,
I remember that tweet.
So, and then as I did 100 interviews last year, I was getting close to 150 episodes overall. And I just put out I just shot my shot and said, I know you said you're not doing any interviews, but I'm approaching 150 episodes. Would love for you to be my 150 guest. Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And shockingly, well, not shockingly, but I think he said yeah. And you guys can correct me on this. I think Sean respected me because he'd seen some of my work and bits like that. But also, you good people have been on my channel. And correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I never said to you during the interview, hey, if you want to put a good word in with Sean, that'd be cool. Do you know what I mean?
Right. No, you never asked me to try to get him for an interview or anything like that.
So I think Sean respected that. And that he was a bucket list one. Chris Van Vliet is a bucket list one. That'd be awesome because like we was talking about at the beginning of this conversation, he's an inspiration to me as an interviewer. Tom Campbell from Cultaholic is a big one because he's another inspiration. Simon Miller is another big one. I think that'd be cool. They're sort of the main three at the moment.
I don't want to blow up Sean's spot here too much. I know when he tweeted that, it was a thing of just like he had been doing so many other just like projects that were non-Fightful adjacent. And I think he was just burned out on a lot because he was saying yes to like everything.
Yeah.
And so we said, and so he said that, and then he just became a little bit more selective. And obviously he has people that he has a lot of respect for, like yourself. And so he didn't have an issue doing that interview. So I think when he put that out there, it was a thing of like, he was saying yes to anything and everything. And he was burning himself out with everything else he has going on. And so he was like, all right, please, I got to slow down a little bit.
Which at the start of this conversation we talked about, because I went through that a lot, right? So I fully respected that. But I also grew up in a household. We have a catchphrase in my house, and we have it on our front door, which is, if you don't ask, you don't get, right?
For sure.
So I basically threw it out there and was like, if you want to, great, but if you don't, no hard feelings.
Yeah. The worst they're gonna do is just block you. I mean,
I was really hoping that wasn't gonna happen, Steven.
No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
He only blocks people if they're jerks and stuff. Tom is the furthest thing from that. So
that was the joke. That was everyone knows that Sean blocks people. That's the only reason I'm gonna that. Obviously he's not gonna block a friend of ours who's asking if he wants to do an interview. That's much different, obviously. So that's cool.
You know what I mean? It's like, if it happened, great, but if it didn't, no hard feelings.
I'm gonna get you blocked by Sean, Stephen Jensen. That's gonna be my next goal.
I thought you were talking to me then. I was like,
no, Tom, I like you. I'm not gonna get you blocked. I'm gonna get Jensen blocked just for the bit. Van Vliet would be a good one. Van Vliet is someone that I think everyone who does interviews like has an amount of respect for, because he's interviewed seemingly anyone and everyone, and he's such a good conversationalist as well. And there's a lot to be learned from Chris Van Vliet.
Yeah, and I feel the same with Tom Campbell, if I'm honest. Like, because he did a great show. I haven't seen an episode in a while, but he did a great show called Desert Island Graps on the Cultaholic podcast feed.
That's a very good interview series for people who have not checked that out.
And that's one that I'm like, I just want to sit under there learning trees, selfishly. Do you know what I mean?
For sure. And get Desert Island Graphs, for those who aren't aware, the concept is basically he interviews wrestlers and he says, like, what are the 3 matches, if you're on a desert island, the 3 matches that like you would be taking with you. And then they talk about the match and how it affects them, you know, whether they were part of it or whether it was something that they that stuck with them as a child, anything like that. So it's a really great concept that they do over at Cultaholic with the Desert Island Grab. So that 2 good choices there with Van Vliet and Tom Campbell. Sean Ross Sapp. Sure. He's a wrestler now, from what I've heard. Like, he's not an interviewer anymore.
Which is quite funny, because when I interviewed him, a segment that we talked about was, will you ever wrestle again? Sorry, Jeremy.
No, you're fine. He got in the ring. He attacked Shazza McKenzie, friend Shazza McKenzie, fellow Swiftie Shazza McKenzie. Now, I don't know if he's going to wrestle again, but he's being a jerk to a Swiftie, and I don't appreciate that.
But as I say, that was one that was like, that was a bucket list, and I'll always be like, I put this quote out recently. I don't know if you guys saw it. It was like, I will always be humble for everything I've got, because I know I could always have less. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I feel so lucky to be in the position I'm in. And it's almost like, I do feel like I do pinch myself every time I do an interview, because it's like, I'm going to wake up soon and it's going to be like, none of this happened and it's still going to be 2021.
You're always great about posting inspirational quotes on your timeline. I don't think people understand just like how much other people sometimes need that kind of stuff. And so I appreciate that you do things like that.
So that started as, obviously I have a care company that works for me, right? Due to my medical needs. And that started as just a way to keep my friends motivated. Do you know what I mean? Like my friends in the care company. It was like, you know what? I've got friends across the pond now, and I've got friends on Twitter that might need some motivation. Do you know what I mean?
For sure.
Yeah. That was the initial idea. And it was almost like, they make me smile, they might make others smile.
Is there anything else that you have like kind of your mind on, as far as like the boxing seems to be going really well? Is there anything else that you've thought about, like maybe that's similar to boxing or another like hobby or anything that you think you might be able to get into, like now that the boxing is going so well?
I don't know, because I like movies, I like TV. It's like, I don't really have time, because I try and go out with my friends every so often. I try and make time for the girlfriend and bits like that. I still consider this a hobby. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
And it's still like, this is still fun to me. And this is something that I will fully say. And it's like, if this stopped being fun, you guys talked about it, I would just disappear. My Twitter would be deactivated. The last few episodes were there and poof. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely know what you mean with that. I feel the same way with having me and Jeremy joke a lot about stuff on the show, and I'm just on here occasionally. I just do like the week, Thursday mornings and Sunday, and then whenever 4 times a year when the Impact pay-per-views are around. Degrassi dudes occasionally. Me and Jeremy have talked about some stuff for Overbooked, but I feel the same kind of way, dude. I can play it as cool as I want to, like on screen or whatever, but a lot of the time after an interview or like after we talk to a wrestler or something, I'm like, that's really cool that like thousands of people get to see that we just talked to this guy or this girl, or we don't discriminate, non-binary, whatever. Like whoever we get to interview, like I just think it's really cool that we have a platform where we can use a platform to help kind of get other people's stuff out there too. So like I think it's just cool, like with this little bit of power that we have, I feel like we're doing a lot of good with it. So that's and I feel like we're doing the same.
And you talked about that. One of the most interesting conversations I've had recently, which will air in a few months, is I had a good friend of mine on that has nothing to do with the wrestling media, but is a massive wrestling fan. And I was really curious to know, how does he balance his fandom with being at college? How does he balance his fandom with... It's called Wrestling with Real Life. That's what the episode will be called. How does he balance his fandom with real life? And it was like, that was such a cool conversation.
Looking forward to
you
that.
never know. Yeah. And you never know when you talk to these people, like what kind of stories they have to share. So it's always interesting to learn about people, whether obviously we're wrestling centric, but then you learn about life and everything, which is really fun. And sometimes the most fascinating stuff when it comes to these conversations.
Tom,
I agree.
Tom, 2 more questions for you. One, who would win a hypothetical street fight between Cody Rhodes and Eddie Kingston?
Hasn't that match technically happened?
Yeah, Cody won. Thank you.
It wasn't a street fight, though.
Yeah.
I guess it
was.
a street fight.
It was a no DQ match.
It was.
Sorry, man, but it was a no DQ match.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you for setting the record straight on that. You're the first person to actually say that on the show, by the way. We've asked many guests.
First person
So thank you.
Wrong about this answer.
First person to bring up truths. I agree. So Cody, is that your official answer? Street fight, Eddie Kingston, Cody Rhodes. You got Cody?
Yeah. So Cody Rhodes won because that match happened.
There we go. Okay.
Second question. We'll get you out of here on this. What's the coolest thing in your room, Tom?
Yeah. If there's any way to get it.
Just
the coolest thing in your room. I don't know if it's near you, if you get it.
Hold that thought. I will be 2 seconds.
Perfect.
Okay. No problem. Can't believe Tom is over here using an official AEW match to answer this question.
Cannot reach. Sorry. Cannot reach.
Oh,
that's okay.
Reach. That's okay. Tell us about what it is.
Tell us about it.
I have 2 cool things. And this is shout out to the Inside the Ropes crew, Kenny McIntosh, Jen Louise, and all that crew.
Great
I got
people.
some 2 wrestlers last year. Kurt Angle and William Regal. I have a signed 8x10 by William Regal. And I have a signed, I think it's like a poster from Kurt Angle. I did 2 amazing trips, one to London and one to Manchester, with my carer that wasn't a wrestling fan. His name is Luke. Shout out to him if he watches this, because he's like a brother. He's like a brother to me. Shout out to him. And like, I've converted him into a wrestling fan now because of those trips.
That's awesome.
Nice. Yeah,
Very,
Inside the
very
Ropes. Cool. Inside the Ropes crew, Kenny McIntosh, one of the nicest people in the sport. So yes, shout out to both of them.
I wanted to ask you, just because I'm very curious about this real quick before we get out of here. Have all your caregivers always been like really supportive of like the wrestling fandom like that? Like the last guy you were just talking about?
Yeah, because
awesome.
They're one of the people that the thing I'll say about KDRX, they're great people, and it's like they are the people that they just want. You know how some carers are obviously in it for the money. I'm sure you guys experience that. No, they are 100% not, and they just want us to pursue our passions, and like especially with what I don't want to say us disabled people, quote unquote, but us, especially with the people that had to isolate during the pandemic. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
We had 2 years of basically being told, you can't do this. So now they're like, go and do it. Go have fun. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's awesome. Very good. That's
Good.
great to hear.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Tom, thank you for joining us today. Let everybody know where they can find you at.
Thank you for having me, guys. Like, this has been awesome.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Plug all your stuff.
Yeah.
Put yourself over, dude.
The good people can find me at Tom Talk Trash on Twitter. They can find my YouTube channel, Tom Talk Trash. They can find the Wrestle Watch podcast on bodyslam.net, wherever you get your podcasts, and on the bodyslam.net YouTube channel. And Jeremy, can I plug this? Will it be out yet? But
it should be out. It should be out by the time everybody listens to this, if you want to plug it.
So I did a pilot show for Overbooked with Rob Wilkins called called Loving Wrestling, which is basically where I will have a guest on, hopefully monthly if the show does well, right, Jeremy?
Yes. Yep.
Basically, because wrestling is a very toxic, negative place, I want to know, sometimes it can be, sometimes it can be great. I want to know, why does my guest love wrestling?
Again, the first episode is up now on Fightful Overbooked with Rob Wilkins, so everyone can go check that out, and there will be monthly episodes where Tom talks to various people
one thing
about.
I will say. My career would not happen without Rob Wilkins because he has been so good to me. Do you know what I mean?
He's a great guy. Yeah,
Yes.
Rob's awesome.
Yeah.
He's been the guy that's like, you can do this, man. Do you know what I mean?
Good. Yeah. Yeah, Rob's a great guy.
Before we wrap this up, is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
The night I was recording my Sean Ross Sapp interview, I had a small panic attack.
Oh, no.
Because I was so nervous, right? And it's the first time I'd been nervous since I did an interview, probably since the Adam Pacitti one, right? So I basically texted Rob and said, look, I might have to text or message Sean and be like, I'm sorry, I can't do this. Like, it's making me too nervous. Do you know what I mean? Next thing I know, Rob sends me a Zoom link like, let's talk. Let's go over your research. Let's calm you down. Do you know what I mean? Because you worked too hard for this opportunity. So nothing but love for Rob Wilkins. Nothing but love for you guys. Thank you for having me on, guys. This has been a blast.
Yeah, awesome. That's a great story. Rob's a great dude. Definitely a great dude. And that's a great story. That's great to know. And also make sure y'all check out the interview that Tom's talking about. It's available tomorrow. If you're hearing this on Thursday during the Spotlight, it's available on Tom's YouTube channel. Check it out. Tom Talks Rubbish, Sean Ross Sapp interview. That's huge. That's huge. Good for you, man.
Will there be links to my stuff?
Yes, below in the description of the video.
Yep.
Subscribe.
Everyone check out.
Yes,
There you
subscribe.
go. Everyone check out all the links below. Follow Tom on Twitter. Check out his YouTube channel. Again, the links are in the description. Everybody, Tom, thank you again for joining us here today. Guys, we will be right back here on the Spotlight. We're back. Thank you to Tom Talks Rubbish for joining us in the Creator Spotlight. Everyone go check out his YouTube channel. The interview with Sean Ross Sapp will be up tomorrow, and Loving Wrestling will be up on Fightful Overbooked in about 12 minutes. Noon is when that premieres on Fightful Overbooked. So everyone go over to Fightful Overbooked. Check out not only that show, check out all the other shows we have going on over there, including Tag Talk every Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern, including Newsworthy every Saturday, including Rob and Maggie coexisting every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. We have Tim, and I always say Tim's name first, Joel and Kate. Tim's not even part of the show anymore. Joel and Kate at 8 o'clock on Sunday Eastern. You saw Kate earlier on the show, making an impromptu run-in. CM punking all of us. Joel and Kate at 8, Sundays, 8 o'clock Eastern PM time, right? Yes. We have a new episode of New Japan Bread Club with Matt and Kieran up. We have Indeed with Righteous Reg and Mike. And we have a potentially new show next week that maybe we'll be announcing in the next day or two. I don't like saying anything until things are like all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. Head over to Fightful Overbook, though, everybody. We appreciate the love. We appreciate the support. Head over to Fightful.com. Check out all the news we got going on over there. Head over to FightfulSelect.com. Sign up for $5. You get all the news, including the report that Sean put out regarding CM Punk, the report that Sean put out regarding Brian Cage and his status with AEW, the report that Sean puts out every single day regarding all the news that you want in wrestling. $5, FightfulSelect.com. Get it firsthand from the actual source. Not all of these other people not doing a good job aggregating it on their website or on Twitter or misconstruing things. Get the accurate report from the man who beat up Shazza McKenzie. All right, everybody, I'm going to wrap things up. We appreciate you joining us today. Thank you, as always, to Stephen Jensen. Follow him on Twitter at @FightTalk_. Do not follow me on Twitter. Please follow Stephen Jensen on Twitter. Give him some love as he continues to go through it with Cody Rhodes being a loser, being a giant rubber chicken loser. We'll be back next week talking all the world, talking everything in the world of professional wrestling. We'll have a new interview with a new person, and look forward to hearing from you. Thank you again for all the super chats today, all the comments in the chat, all the people who tuned in, whether live or on replay. We appreciate that. We'll be back next week. I'm Jeremy Lambert. This has been The Spotlight. Bye, everybody.